Chapter 1495. Dustless stared at Xiao Guqing with pity and shook his head. This guy was definitely the most useless true ancestor in history, even the weirdest one. This guy is so stupid. These two demons don't look like good guys. They're so quick. They must be repeat offenders. Not to mention Wu Chun and Nangong Not Siu. Zhua Shelley's face darkened. She was so angry that she stomped her feet. This kid didn't do it on purpose, did he? GMO Shuelai looked at Xiao Guqing suspiciously. Damn it, Xiao Guqing was embarrassed. GMO Shuelai looked at him like he was an idiot. His face turned red, and he felt a burning pain. He wanted to dig a hole and hide. He stared at the blonde young man in anger. Xiao Guqing was speechless. I helped you two out of the kindness of my heart, but you bastards repaid my kindness with ingratitude. Not only did you embarrass me, but you also threatened GMO Shuelai. Thinking of this, Xiao Guqing lowered his head in shame, not daring to look at GMO Shuelai in the eyes. The battle between true ancestors is indeed not suitable for me. If the other true ancestors knew that I was captured so easily, they might faint from anger. This is so humiliating. Xiao Guqing sighed in his heart. At the same time, a cold light flashed across his eyes. Although he was captured because of his carelessness, it didn't mean that he would resign himself to death. On the contrary, these two bastards had enraged him as a true ancestor. Pop, pop, pop. Clenching his fists, Xiao Guqing released golden lightning bolts. What's going on? The demon who was holding Xiao Guqing exclaimed. Looking at the ferocious eyes, he felt as if he was being stared at by some ancient beast. Boom, boom, boom. Xiao Guqing released a powerful aura. A strong shock wave pushed back the demon who was holding the blade to his throat. The demon frothed at the mouth and fainted, barely regained the dignity of a true ancestor. Dustless, Natsuki, and GMO Shuelai murmured. Bastard, how dare you threaten me? Xiao Guqing yelled. Since you want to play so much, have a taste of my fist. Grabbing the corner of the blonde demon's clothes, Xiao Guqing punched him mercilessly. Ka. A sharp and clear sound rang out, and a bloody tooth protruded from the blonde demon's mouth. After enraging Akatsuki Kogu, he was particularly miserable. Boom, boom, boom. He was sent flying 20 meters away by Koju's punch, landing right in front of the restaurant where Dustless was eating. Serves you right. Brushing off the dust on his palm, Koju said with a smile. Looks like I don't have to do anything. Seeing this, Nangong Natsuki breathed a sigh of relief. Just as everyone thought that everything would be fine, a sharp beast cry suddenly sounded. Ayo, ayo. Zhuahoof, the curly beast that had been hit by Zhua Shelley earlier, raised its head and roared towards the sky once again. You could still stand. Zhua Shuelai once again assumed a fighting posture. Damn it, his skin is so thick, Koju said with a frown. At the same time, he was also tempted by the loud roar. As the fourth ancestor, he controlled 12 powerful whirlwinds, each of which was invincible and could easily flatten an island. Zhuahoof, come here. The blonde demon youth's face was extremely gloomy. He thought that Koju was an idiot and could easily take him down, but who would have thought that this kid was hiding his strength? He looked at Zhua Shelley and saw that she was also coldly looking at him, and his neck suddenly shrank. Only when I find a hostage, these guys will hesitate to attack me. The blonde demon youth's eyes swept around and fell on Nangong Natsuki, who was dressed like a gothic loli. His eyes shot out a ferocious light, but then he suddenly thought of something and withdrew his eyes in fear. Am I really going to jail this time? Not even a hostage. The blonde demon youth's face was full of despair. Gulp! Suddenly, the sound of food being eaten came from the side. He instinctively looked over and saw a peerless foodie crazily sweeping the food on the table. His eyes suddenly lit up. This bastard. Does he think that I'm a pushover? Dustless's face darkened. Although his eyes have never left the table, he has been observing the situation outside with his observation hockey. I can't even have a peaceful meal, and what the hell is wrong with this world? First, someone came to rob me, and now someone wants to take me as a hostage. Originally, Dustless didn't want to intervene in this boring fight. He planned to leave after eating, but who would have thought that this bastard would think that he was a pushover? "Boy, what are you looking at? Come here quickly." The blonde demon youth shouted angrily. He found that Dustless was staring at him, and his eyes were so cold that they stung his skin. "Run away! Get away from him!" Nangong not Suki reminded. "Boy, are you tired of living?" Dustless ignored their reminders and coldly said, "Within 5 seconds, kneel down and count out to me 3 times, then you can get out of here." Is this guy crazy? Koju and the others' faces darkened, thinking that Dustless was simply courting death. "What did you say?" The blonde demon youth angrily pointed at Dustless and cursed. "Zhuito, tear this boy who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth." Ayo. The flaming horse roared a few times and swooped down after receiving the order. Idiot. Dustless was expressionless. In his ears, this was just a boring roar before death, full of desolation. He calmly raised his leg that was covered in a flash of light and kicked out mercilessly. Light speed kick. The light shot out in a straight line, pointlessly hitting Zhuito. Ayo. Zhuito screamed miserably. The powerful force was beyond imagination. In an instant, its huge body was kicked dozens of meters away, followed by a violent explosion of golden light. Even the surrounding street was vaporized. Chapter 1496. That kick, isn't it a little too powerful? Is he still human? After a long silence, Koju said with a twitching face, "Unregistered demon?" Ji Shuai had a pair of bracelets to prevent her from entering the demon territory, but Wu Chun didn't have any bracelets. In other words, he was an illegal immigrant who snuck into the island. This guy, Nangong Nachu's gaze also changed. It was filled with a different meaning. "CK, I overexerted myself." Dustless frowned. He only wanted to kill the scum with a kick, but he didn't expect it to destroy the street as well. At the same time, he noticed that Natsuki was looking at him in a different way. "Do you remember that Koju caused tens of billions of damage when he freed the beast?" Dustless was embarrassed. He didn't have a single cent on him. Although the damage wasn't as bad as tens of billions, it was still a few 100 million yen. "Right? I can push the blame to someone else." Dustless's eyes lit up. His body glowed with a golden light. He flashed and appeared in front of Koju. "Kid, this is all your fault." Grabbing Koju's shoulders with both hands, Dustless angrily said, "It's all your fault. If it weren't for your overflowing love, how could this have happened? You even dragged me into this. Hurry up and pay for the mental damage." "Huh?" Koju looked at Dustless blankly. After a while, he refused. "Although it was my carelessness, you're the main culprit." Koju stared at Dustless angrily. Was this guy trying to use him as a scapegoat? "Shut up, both of you." Natsuki cut in with a stern voice. "You disobeyed the laws of Itagami Island. Both of you are at fault here, especially that guy called Dustless. He is an unregistered demon. How dare he walk around in front of me? This is unforgivable." Nangong Nakyu's face was red, and her angry appearance was very cute. She felt that her intelligence had been underestimated by Dustless. It was one thing for an unregistered demon to be moving around under her nose, but he was also causing destruction one after another. This was a naked humiliation. This Natsuki Nangong is not easy to deal with. Even if you sell me, I won't be worth tens of billions. Dustless felt a headache coming on. Although Natsuki had decided not to pursue the matter, he was now involved in an accident for no reason. He might have to pay a large sum of money. Woo. After a while, an ear-piercing and weird siren resounded in the sky. A large number of police cars rushed over from all directions. Groups of police jumped out of the cars and aimed at Dustless and the others with all kinds of firearms. "Take all of them away." In her eyes, these people were all criminals, and there was no right or wrong between them. That's good too. Prison food is still food. At least there's a place to stay. Although the environment is a little bad, it's free. No matter what, it's better than sleeping on the streets. Dustless's mutterings almost made Natsuki explode. She had already labeled him as a shipwreck in her heart. I didn't do anything wrong. It was self-defense. Koju and G.M.O. Shuelai were not willing. One of them was a student, and the other was in charge of monitoring the true ancestor. How could they go to prison for no reason? Dustless watched them silently. In any case, none of this had anything to do with him. Little Natsuki, there's no need. Don't use small. She picked up her fan and rudely hit Koju. Natsuki said seriously, "Can't you two learn from others?" Nangong Nayu pointed at Dustless, who was sitting there obediently. This guy is really a jinx. G.M.O. Shuelai helplessly stomped her foot. Her impression of Koju had plummeted. Just like Dustless said, she also thought that it was Koju's fault. If he had not meddled in other people's business, none of this would have happened. Put this on for me. In the carriage where the prisoner was being escorted, a burly policeman walked up to Dustless and took out a special handcuff. It was estimated that it was used to limit magic. However, Dustless did not even look at him. He said coldly, "Get out of my way." "What did you say?" Hearing this, the policeman pointed his gun at Dustless. The latter just stared at him coldly. The temperature in the carriage dropped 100 times. The policeman trembled. Dustless's piercing stare made his heart jump. "It's okay. I'll take care of the three of them." Natsuki waved her hand, indicating that the policeman could leave. Compared to Koju and that female student, this guy is too strange. After thinking for a while, Natsuki finally chose to sit beside Dustless. She felt that he was too dangerous. Moreover, his background and identity were mysterious. Although Koju was the fourth true ancestor, he was still her student. Natsuki knew everything about him. As for the beautiful girl with the silver divine spear, she had already vaguely guessed her identity. Although she didn't know her name, she was very familiar with the origin of that spear. On the other hand, Natsuki looked at Dustless from the corner of her eyes. She had a special impression of him. Previously, he had killed the curly beast with a single kick. This was enough to prove that Dustless was not ordinary. There was no trace of magic power. It was just pure strength. Is he a psychic? His strength is not bad. If his background is clean, I can use him. Natsuki's eyes flashed. She quickly came to a decision. She was certain that Dustless was a human. In this world where the true ancestors were rampant, it would not be wrong to rope in a few powerful humans. After all, the true ancestors were vampires and humans were still humans. Chapter 1497. This guy. Dustless frowned slightly. He had also noticed Natsuki's strange behavior. "Oi, pervert, why are you so close to me? People are watching. Don't even think about messing around." Dustless pointed at Koju and Ji-Shuisheli with a fake smile. Pervert. Koju and Ji-Shuisheli both had weird looks on their faces, especially Koju's. Sometimes his face would darken, and sometimes it would be filled with evil. The corners of Natsuki's mouth twitched violently as she tried her best to control her anger. "If you dare to spread rumors again, I promise you will never see the sun again in your life." Natsuki stared at Dustless fiercely and warned, "Do not doubt my identity. You're not a local, are you?" "I can." Natsuki made a throat-cutting gesture and showed an evil look on her face. This guy had such a nasty mouth. "You want to detain me illegally?" Hearing her, Dustless blinked his bright eyes. What he said next almost made Natsuki suffocate. "Then, destroying your prison is also self-defense, right?" Dustless made a defensive face. These people. Ji-Shuisheli's eyes kept darting around, staring at the three people. Finally, she fixed her eyes on Dustless. That kick of his just now was not normal. Such a person should not be unknown. Ji-Shuisheli lowered her head and thought. She couldn't help but be curious about Dustless's identity. She was able to kick the whirlwind beast with a single kick. Even she could not do it so casually, and she did not use any weapons. This guy is to blame. Staring at Dustless with a gloomy face, Koju looked like an angry wife. He was caught for no reason. Although he was partly responsible, he still wanted to push the blame to Dustless. This guy could have just taught the others a lesson. Why did he have to make such a big fuss? What made Koju want to vomit blood was that Dustless had made such a big fuss. Not only did he get himself caught, but he also wanted Koju to compensate him for the mental damage. This was too much. What are you looking at? Dustless saw Koju's fiery eyes and said with disdain, "If I were you, I would find a piece of tofu and kill myself. You're so pitifully weak." "That's because I don't want to deal with them," Koju retorted. As a true ancestor, he had the right to be arrogant. Although he was still a dabbler, a true ancestor was still a true ancestor. There were only 4 of them in the entire world. Thus, existences like the true ancestor were almost deified and called invincible by the world. Really? Hearing this, Dustless looked at Koju mockingly and said, "I wonder who became someone's captive and even threatened this young lady." The young lady Dustless mentioned was naturally Jijwasheli. But then again, Nangong Yuna suddenly interjected, "How do you know Koju is a vampire?" Natsuki stared at Dustless suspiciously. Koju definitely wouldn't reveal his identity as a vampire. So how did Dustless find out? Hearing this, Dustless was stunned. He opened his mouth, but was speechless. He knew Koju was a vampire and the 4th true ancestor at that. Of course, it was because he had transmigrated. After a few seconds of silence, Dustless explained, "I've seen this guy a few times before. He's always looking at women's buttocks with shifty eyes, and he often has nosebleeds. It's very similar to vampires. They get excited when they see a woman's buttocks." "Bullshit," Koju roared, unable to contain his anger. "Pervert." Jijwasheli's face was full of disgust. She left Koju's side and sat in the empty seat next to Dustless and Natsuki. Then, she thought of her mission and a trace of pain flashed through her eyes. Koju's face turned green when he saw Jijwasheli's action. Although this explanation is far-fetched, vampires have this kind of characteristic. Natsuki's eyes were full of suspicion. In fact, Jijwasheli had also noticed Koju's strange fetish. Although it was unavoidable under certain circumstances, it was still annoying to stare at someone's buttocks or breasts. "We're here. Get out of the car." The car stopped, and Natsuki got out first. She led Dustless and the others into a special building. There was a sign that said Special Region Police Force. Are they really going to interrogate us? Dustless frowned and followed them in. However, he soon regretted it. Koju was indeed the 4th true ancestor. He just asked some harmless questions and left unscathed. Jijwasheli did the same. Therefore, there was only Dustless and Natsuki in the large interrogation room. This is not fair. Dustless saw Koju's back through the tempered glass. He was furious. Wasn't that kid just the 4th true ancestor? Do you know why they left so quickly? Natsuki calmly sipped her black tea. Privileged dog. Dustless glanced at Xiao Guqing with his sharp eyes and snorted. Privileged dogs. Natsuki nodded elegantly and said, "That's right, both of them do have special privileges. After all, their status is different from ordinary people, so some special privileges are necessary." Pedantic. They're just true ancestors. Dustless looked down on her. For others, true ancestors were unreachable, but for him, they were nothing. Dustless had fought countless enemies who were stronger than true ancestors. "Then, do you want some privileges?" Nangong Natsuki narrowed her eyes and asked like a cunning fox. Chapter 1498. Wuchen looked at Nangong Nayu in surprise. He naturally understood what she meant. What kind of person could have such a privilege? Of course, it was his own people. In other words, he could join Itagami Island. Become Koju's follower? Dustless's body trembled. He knew that Itagami Island was the headquarters of Akatsuki Empire. In the future, it would expand by 100 times. Koju should be my follower. Dustless shook his head and took a deep breath. "I can join, but I have a condition." "Join?" Natsuki stared at Dustless. Did this idiot think he was joining a terrorist organization? "Let's hear it." Natsuki took a sip of her tea and said, "As long as it's not too much, I can't agree." "It's not too much." Dustless didn't mince his words. "I need a suitable house. That's all." With his strength, he could live in the open, but every time Dustless met someone who looked at him like he was a beggar, he felt uncomfortable. "Is there something wrong with my ears?" Natsuki muttered, "Are you sure you only want a house? If I agree to such a simple condition, You'll be a magician from now on. Natsuki could make the decision for such a small matter. Speaking of which, Natsuki suddenly remembered Dustless's ability and asked, "Is that light element magic you're an expert in?" "Magic? I don't know that kind of thing. You can think of me as a psychic," Dustless said. "If there's nothing else, please arrange a place for me to stay. I need to rest." Dustless had been living in the open since he came to this world. He never felt the warmth of home. "Watch your tone. From now on, I'm your boss," Nangong Natsuki said unhappily. Her tone was extremely arrogant as she said complacently, "Be careful or I'll deduct your salary." This girl, hearing this, Dustless didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He could only change the topic. "What's my address?" "Don't worry, I have a mission for you." Natsuki waved her hand and wisely said, "You have met Koju before, right? Your task in the future is to keep an eye on him. The house I gave you is near his house. Monitor him." The corner of Dustless's mouth twitched, and he said unhappily, "What's the reason?" Even though he knew that Koju was the fourth true ancestor, Dustless still wanted to make things difficult for Natsuki. Monitoring someone was fine, but there had to be a reason. "He is the fourth true ancestor." Natsuki revealed Koju's identity without any shame. This guy isn't hesitant at all when it's time to sell out his teammates. Dustless could already see Koju's constipated face after he found out the truth. He could understand Natsuki's order to keep an eye on Koju. As a magical practitioner, it was her duty to protect this city. The fourth true ancestor was the most unstable factor, so it was understandable that he would be monitored. Gosh, Koju is going to become a national treasure. Dustless was quite jealous of this kid. The Lion King organization wanted to monitor Koju, and even gave him a future princess. Even though Jijua Shelley was hostile to Koju, because of him, she still had to follow her orders and continue monitoring Koju. And now, Dustless had to monitor Koju as well, so he was speechless. "Here are the keys." Natsuki threw a bunch of keys to Dustless and said seriously, "But the house you live in is too big, and someone is renting it. You also have a roommate. Do you have to be like this? You can't even afford a house. What kind of crappy organization is this?" "Just close down," Dustless said unhappily. "Being a hired thug is the fastest way to make money. There's nothing we can do about it. We have limited funds, so you have to be considerate of our organization." Natsuki's expression was normal. "Only this once. Don't do it again. Hurry up and take me there." Dustless didn't want to talk nonsense. Staying in this kind of stuffy environment made him uncomfortable. Although he wasn't used to living with other people, it was better than living outside. "Great." Natsuki smiled and nodded, and then left with Dustless. In an apartment that was not bad. "That's Koju's house." Natsuki pointed at the house next door, which had the word Koju on it. "Your mission from now on is to monitor Koju. I'll watch him at school, and you'll watch his house. That way, I can rest assured." Natsuki said with a relaxed expression, "This is your room. Of course, your roommate is there too." Natsuki pointed at the door and said, "I have classes tomorrow. You can go in by yourself." It's about the same as the Lion King organization. Dustless looked at Natsuki's disappearing figure and muttered to himself. When he was about to knock on the door, he suddenly paused. "Why would I knock when I have the key? Stupid." Creak. With a creak, the door was gently pushed open by Dustless. When he was about to check the room, Dustless was shocked by what he saw. A naked young girl was wearing clothes, and her hair was still wet. She seemed to have just taken a shower. Dustless also found that she was unexpectedly familiar. "Miss Jijua, why are you here? Did you go to the wrong room?" Jijua Shelley, who was staring at Wu Chan in a daze, was also staring at him in a daze. "Could it be this guy's my roommate?" Dustless's face twitched. He suddenly found that the key in Jijua Shelley's sailor suit was exactly the same as his. Obviously, Jijua Shelley was also the owner of this apartment. Chapter 1499. Dustless was stunned, and he couldn't help but curse Natsuki in his mind. That kid must have done it on purpose. If I get the chance, I will definitely spank her ass. At the same time, Dustless was also depressed. Natsuki was obviously using her power to avenge a personal grudge. She must have known that Jijua Shelley was her tenant. However, Natsuki didn't mention it. Obviously, she was doing it on purpose. Dirty. Jijua Shelley's face blushed. A silver spear appeared in her hand, and she thrust it towards Jijua Shelley mercilessly. This spear is evil, and it's famous. It's even more famous than that fake ancestor. I heard that it can even kill immortal ancestors. But I am not a real ancestor. Facing the sharp light of the snow cloud wolf, Dustless stood still like a statue. Byusashoku hardening. Dustless murmured in his mind. His abdomen turned dark, and his skin was even harder than diamonds. Clang, clang, clang. A loud noise spread out, and Jijua Shelley's arm went numb. How is this possible? It didn't pierce through this guy? Although I was trying to scare him and didn't use all my power, the power of the snow cloud wolf is beyond doubt. It can't even pierce through his skin? Isn't this a little too outrageous? Jijua Shelley stared at Wu-chan in shock, while waves of shock rose in her heart. This spear is the 7th type of assault demon machine gun, Snow Cloud Wolf. It is a secret weapon developed by the Lion King organization to fight against the demons. The spell engraved on the Snow Cloud Wolf is called Godhead Vibration Wave Spell. It can nullify any magic power, and it can cut through any protective screen. It is the only weapon successfully used by the Lion King organization to fight against the demons. Recalling the origin of the spear, Dustless explained in a bland tone. To some extent, this spear can kill magicians and demons, and even immortal ancestors. No, it used to be like this, but I don't think so anymore. Jijua Shelley suddenly shook her head, took a deep look at Dustless, and said, "Aren't you the one who was hit by the Snow Cloud Wolf?" A wisp of an arc appeared on the corners of Wu Chen's mouth when he heard this, and he explained, "This is understandable. Nothing is absolute. Perhaps I'm that special case." Dustless was neither a real ancestor nor a magician, so this Snow Cloud Wolf was not useful to him. "Let me introduce myself. I am Dustless. From now on, I will be your roommate." Shaking the key in his hand, Dustless, he tried his best to maintain a gentle look. "I don't feel at ease having a roommate like you. You don't even make a sound when you walk, and why didn't you knock on the door?" Jijua Shelley asked in an unfriendly manner. She was very alert towards Wu-chan. "Knock. This is my home. Do you need to knock on the door?" Wu-chan asked sharply. Meanwhile, he awkwardly glanced at Jijua Shelley and said, "That's not important." Mississippi Jijua Shelley, before asking these boring questions, "Can you put on your clothes first?" Whoosh! Right at this moment, a faint breeze blew over. Jijua Shelley, who was barely clothed, shivered, and her face instantly turned as red as a ripe apple. "It's all your fault." Jijua Shelley glared at Dustless with her sharp eyes, then decisively closed the door. It seemed that she was going to put on her clothes. Jijua Shelley then heard an ear-piercing scream. She was probably cursing Dustless. He's surprisingly slow, but he's ridiculously sharp when it comes to combat. Dustless shook his head, leaned against the wall, and glanced at Koju's house. A strange light flashed across his eyes. Koju seems to have a sister called Koju. Koju seems to have Agurola living in her body, said Jijua Shelley. "If only I'd come here a few years earlier, that bastard Koju would have taken advantage of me." While sighing, Jijua cursed Koju. "Koju is such a loser, but good things always happen to him. God is so unfair." What annoyed Dustless the most was that he had to keep an eye on Koju. Creak. At the same time, the closed door suddenly opened. Jijua Shelley came into Jijua Shelley's sight. "If you dare to tell anyone about what happened just now, I will kill you," said the wolf, pointing at Dustless's chin. "And how do you know who I am?" "We are in the same line of work. I am an attack mage in the Special Regions Police Force. Although I don't know you, everyone knows about your snow wolf." Dustless walked over Jijua Shelley's shoulder and into the living room. He nodded slightly. The living room was not big, but it was clean. There were 2 bedrooms, one for Jijua Shelley and the other for Dustless. "You are an attack mage?" Hearing this, Jijua Shelley stared at Dustless in surprise, but she didn't ask any further. She would find out later when she went back to the Lion King organization. Anyway, we have the same mission, to keep an eye on Koju, the fourth true ancestor. Dustless put on a sad face and asked for help. Miss Jijua, how about we share information? Can you tell me anything useful? Asked Jijua Shelley. Well, Dustless rolled his eyes. What can I tell you? Nothing. He had just accepted this job. Well, I've been following Koju. The guy is really promiscuous. Not only does he stare at women's, but every day he is also delusional, perverted, and scumbag. You have to be careful of that perverted vampire. Stay away from Koju, especially when he drinks your blood. He won't even let his own sister go. Jijua Shelley's eyes popped out. She was shocked by Dustless's news. Then she yelled furiously, I will kill that scumbag. Chapter 1500. Looking at Jijua Shelley, Dustless was shocked. Jijua Shelley had been releasing an oppressive vibe. Obviously, she was not just talking about it. This was the real deal. Cough, cough, cough. Wait. Jijua Shelley walked out of the room with the wolf in her hand. Dustless hurriedly pulled her back. Although he hated Koju as well, that guy was not dead yet. He just needed to stir up some trouble and break the relationship between Jijua Shelley and Koju. Why are you pulling me back? Jijua Shelley asked unhappily. You have no evidence. Without evidence, you are killing innocent people. Do you understand? You are disregarding human lives. As the saying goes, a thief takes the stolen goods. When his true colors are exposed, it won't be too late for you to teach him a lesson. If you kill Koju for no reason, you won't be able to explain it to the Lion King organization. Are you willing to give up your youth for a scum? There was a saying that listening to a wise man was better than reading books for 10 years. Hearing this, Jijua Shelley suddenly felt enlightened and immediately nodded. It would be a great loss for her to sacrifice herself for a scum. What do you want? Why did you encourage me to kill Koju? After a while, she stared at Wu-chan with a suspicious look in her eyes. Jijua Shelley was not a 3-year-old child. She had wanted to kill Xiao Guqing just now out of anger, but now she had sensed a conspiracy. This girl is hard to fool. Dustless was confused. He glanced at Jijua Shelley's clear eyes and continued. Instigate? It was complete nonsense. Don't forget that I'm also a watcher of Koju. This guy should not have appeared in the world. His appearance might break the balance of the Holy Realm Treaty, and the human race might fall into an abyss of suffering again. If Koju is evil, we don't need to protect him. We just need to kill him. But now, he is a pervert, which is the opposite of what a true ancestor should be like. Maybe he will do something even worse in the future. This guy. Hearing this, Jijua Shelley frowned slightly. She also felt that what Dustless said made sense. But when these words came out of Dustless's mouth, it sounded as if he was thinking for the whole world, which made her feel uncomfortable. All in all, Miss GMO, you have to be careful of Koju, Dustless reminded her again. He is a true ancestor, one of the most powerful beings on this planet. Of course, if I decide that he is not suitable for the true ancestor, or if he threatens the survival of humanity, I will kill him without hesitation. Jijua Shelley said with a pair of blazing eyes. This was her mission. Naive. Hearing this, Dustless silently shook his head. In fact, Jijua Shelley didn't send Xiao Guqing to keep an eye on Jijua Shelley. Instead, the Lion King organization wanted Jijua Shelley to become Xiao Guqing's partner. Jijua Shelley might not have realized this herself, and besides, Akatsuki Koju wasn't the one who had been keeping an eye on Jijua Shelley. How sad. Recalling Jijua Shelley's experience, Dustless couldn't help but feel pity for her. Jijua Shelley was sent away like a commodity, and she didn't even know about it. At least in Dustless's eyes, her life was extremely miserable. Boom, 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 boom. Suddenly, a blazing fire rose from the horizon, and the violent vibration could be felt from a few hundred meters away. It was like an earthquake, and even the huge Itagami Island trembled a few times. This is bad. Through the window, looking at the blazing fire in the distant horizon, Wu Chen's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. Could it be that Western European idiot who came here for the winner's right arm? But in the end, he was defeated by Koju. Dustless murmured to himself. Although his voice was low, Jijua Shelley still heard a few words. Do you know who it is? Come with me. Jijua Shelley didn't care whether Dustless agreed or not. She grabbed his collar and jumped out of the window. Are you out of your mind? Dustless stared at Jijua Shelley in confusion. Sometimes, this girl was like a bandit. She didn't care about other people's feelings at all. This was a few floors high, and if she didn't pay attention, she would fall to her death. Bang! Jijua Shelley and Dustless finally landed on the ground. But what surprised her was that she and Dustless didn't fall to the ground. Instead, they were floating in the air. You can fly. Jijua Shelley looked at Dustless in surprise. Her face blushed slightly. She was held in Dustless's arms, and because they were so close, she could even smell Dustless's scent. Is this guy a man or a woman? It's the first time I've heard that a man can smell good. Jijua Shelley's face turned even redder, and she struggled even harder. You don't want to fall either, do you? Pointing at the ground, Dustless said in a bland tone, If you keep moving, I will throw you into the water. You. Jijua Shelley threw an annoyed glance at Dustless, then angrily turned her head away. If you want to get there as soon as possible, don't move. If you move too slowly, you'll miss the opportunity. Dustless explained in a low voice. He could clearly sense that Jijua Shelley's resistance had become weaker. Swish, 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 swish. Right after that, a bright beam of light flashed across the sky, moving at an unimaginable speed. It was so fast that human eyes couldn't even see it clearly. Many people even thought that it was a shooting star. Of course, there were also some people with sharp eyes. Dustless, you can fly. A voice that was as surprised as Jijua Shelley's voice was heard. Silver slightly lowered his head and saw Natsuki Nangong and Xiao Guqing. Wasn't this guy at home just now? Silver glanced at Xiao Guqing and found that Dustless had landed safely on the ground. Jijua Shelley hurriedly struggled out of Dustless's arms. She was already embarrassed, and now, with two more people watching, she felt even more embarrassed. Chapter 1501. He can fly. Koju was also shocked and looked at Dustless with jealousy. He, a grand true ancestor, still needed to walk, but a mere mortal like Dustless was playing with technology, flying. What are you two doing here? Nangong Natiyu asked with a frown. My task is to keep an eye on the fourth true ancestor. Jijua Shelley said bluntly. What about you? Natsuki glanced at Dustless. She was the one who had sent Dustless to monitor Koju. This little girl wanted to see the fireworks and forced me to bring her here. Originally, I wasn't interested in this kind of thing. Just think of it as me coming here for a vacation. Dustless shrugged and said casually, Traveling? Natsuki almost fainted from anger. She didn't know why, but whenever she was in the same space as Dustless, she always felt uncomfortable. Wherever she went, she felt uncomfortable. This fellow was simply too infuriating. Aoo, aoo, aoo. Heart-wrenching screams filled the sky, causing everyone's legs to go cold, not daring to take another step forward. Hurry up, Koju. Hearing the miserable screams, Natsuya impatiently grabbed Koju's clothes and rushed to the scene. Jijua and Shelley followed closely behind her. Only Dustless was lazily walking back and forth. Idiot, you'll be walking right into a trap if you go. Dustless couldn't help but shake his head. That girl called Astaruti had some skill. Koju hadn't truly sucked blood yet, so he would have a hard time against her. Ayo, 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 ayo. The horrifying screams were getting closer and closer, and, at the same time, the violent tremors were getting clearer and clearer. In a trance, Dustless could even see Astaluti's strange curly beast, Rose's fingertips. She was devouring a huge wild horse, an artificial life form that could devour curly beasts. That's rare. Dustless sighed with emotion. His eye technique was peerless, and as such, his vision was much clearer than Koju and the others. An artificial life that could devour curly beasts? Do you think we're kids? Koju turned his head and asked in an unfriendly tone. His eyes were clearly saying, Don't even think about treating me like an idiot again. It's coming. Since Koju was facing him, he didn't pay attention to Dustless's words. Get away from Koju, Nangong Natsuyu loudly warned. At the same time, she had already left. Bang, bang, bang. With a loud explosion, Koju was sent flying and disappeared without a trace. How pitiful. Even this guy can sit on the true ancestor's seat. I feel like I'm a god, Dustless complained. This was the first time he was cursing the heavens for being unfair. Good cabbages were all eaten by pigs. Damn it. 100 meters away, Koju was lying miserably in the ruins. His body was covered in wounds, and he grimaced in pain. And the one who launched the attack was the asteroid Dustless had mentioned before. This guy is really a devouring curly beast. Shelley gasped in disbelief. This was the first time he had seen such an unbelievable scene. Nangong Natsuyu was also surprised, but she was much calmer. Her gem-like eyes looked at the blurry silhouette in the darkness. Her tone was filled with hostility. Dustless, what are you waiting for? Capture him for me, Nangong Natsu ordered sternly. This is our mission. As the attack mages of Itagami Island, we must capture this troublesome person. Capture him now. Dustless was stunned. He looked at Nangong Natsuyu in disbelief and curled his lips. Really, if I knew that attack mages were so busy, I would have rejected this job. You want to capture me? You're just a nameless junior? The blonde man said. Your true ancestor was defeated and you want to defeat me? You're too naive. Boom, 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 boom. At the same time, a battle broke out on the other side. Allah, Allah, Allah. That transfer student from the middle division is quite strong. He's more trustworthy than a certain true ancestor. Nangong Natsuyu glanced at Koju and teased. Shut up. It's none of your business. Koju said indignantly. As a true ancestor, there was a reason why he was so weak. Other than the fact that he had only been a true ancestor for a short period of time, another reason was that he had not sucked blood yet. Fourth true ancestor. Open your eyes and take a good look. On Dustless's side, both sides were ready to fight. Nangong Natsuyu and Koju also looked over. They were curious about Dustless's strength. I'm an armed exorcist from Lordenlingia. I'm a monk from the Western European Church. My name is Rudolf Ostak. I came to visit Itagami Island. My goal is to destroy this island and take back my holy relic. After saying that, Rudolf Ostak took out his huge battle axe. Nameless Junior, quickly take out your weapon and fight me. Ostak's face was filled with arrogance as he skillfully brandished his battle axe, which emitted a chilling light. Forget about the weapon. Use it yourself. You're already so old, but you're still wearing such heavy armor and holding such a heavy axe. You're really strong, old man. Slightly moving his sore shoulders, Wu Chan said lazily. However, I've always respected the old and loved the young. This time, I'll use my bare hands to deal with you. If I use a sword, I'm afraid others will say that I'm bullying you. Bastard, are you looking down on me? Ostak was furious. Wu Chen was looking down on him. He wanted to fight him with his bare hands. He was treating him like cha-cha. Isn't this a bit too much? Nangong Natsuyu was worried. Her opponent was not a nobody. He was an annihilator from the Western European Church. Chapter 1502. An Eastern European monk? Natsuki Nangong sighed. She already knew what this annihilator was after. The relic of the Holy One. It was the relic of the Eastern European Church, and it was not impossible to take it. After all, it belonged to someone else. However, this method was too extreme, and Natsuki Nangong would not accept it. Rudolf Ostak, who was holding the giant axe, roared in excitement. His face was filled with hysteria, and there were even tears at the corners of his eyes. In a trance, he seemed to have seen himself retrieving the Holy One's right wrist. I'm sorry. Although I sympathize with the painful experience of your church, I'm still working in this city. If you are willing to repent, I don't mind giving you a way out, Dustless said with a compassionate face. Repent? What a joke. Rudolf Ostak was infuriated by Chun Fan's words. His golden hair stood on end like a raging lion. When Itinerant God Island was first built, there was no suitable material to replace it. The guy called Itinerant God, Qianluo, eventually targeted the relic of my church. Rudolf Ostak became even more crazed and terrifying as he spoke. A brainwashed idiot. Dustless did not want to listen to his nonsense. He interrupted him directly. If negotiation is useless, then please disappear from my sight forever. Whoosh! Whoosh! The huge, heavy axe attacked with full force, mercilessly chopping towards Wu Chen's head. Weak. Dustless did not move. He looked at the black axe indifferently. He did not make any defensive movements. It seemed like he was really going to block the axe that was bigger than him with his bare hands. Idiot! Koju cursed in his mind. He immediately turned around as if he did not want to see Dustless's miserable appearance. After all, he was just an ordinary student who had become a true ancestor not long ago. Clang! 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 A loud shockwave spread out slowly, followed by a strong wind. Due to the strength of the shockwave, Koju was caught off guard and was pushed back by the wind. Plop! Koju slipped and lost his balance. He fell to the ground on his butt. Why is the wind blowing all of a sudden? Koju was confused. He looked at Dustless and was shocked by what he saw. When the black great axe was only an inch away from Dustless's head, a delicate arm easily grabbed the black great axe that was larger than a person. He was only a little bit away from breaking Dustless's head. Damn it! Rudolf Ostak was furious. He was so close, but he didn't have the strength to continue controlling the giant axe. That small hand, which was thinner than a woman's, contained a great amount of strength. Gulp! Koju felt a lump in his throat. He had previously thought that Dustless was a light magus, but now it seemed that he was completely wrong. This guy's strength and body were ridiculously tough, like a diamond. Some things it's time to reconsider. Koju isn't suitable for the true ancestor class. Perhaps someone can do it better than him. Nangong Natsuya's eyes flashed with wisdom. Although she was also shocked by Dustless's strength, she was much more shrewd than Koju. No one noticed it. Nangong Nayu's eyes shone with a strange light. The way she looked at Dustless changed subtly. Who the hell are you? Rudolf Ostak asked in fear. This guy's body didn't leak any mana, and when he attacked, there were no special energy fluctuations. He was almost the same as an ordinary person. But this was the strangest thing. How could an ordinary person grab his great axe with their bare hands? Crack! Crack! A crisp sound suddenly rang out. Rudolf Ostak was startled at first, but he suddenly felt that his great axe was much lighter than usual. He opened his eyes wide in curiosity. Crack! Crack! The great axe, that was larger than a person, was continuously broken into pieces. Dustless had used his wrist strength to crush Rudolf Ostak's beloved weapon. Bastard! Regaining his senses, Rudolf Ostak glared at Dustless. He vented all his anger on Dustless, and his fist that was as large as a human's head smashed towards him. Poochie! With a flash of a blade, Dustless chopped off Rudolf's right arm. Ah! Rudolf Ostak let out a miserable howl. Blood flowed out of his mouth, and the intense pain made him roll on the ground in agony. This way, you should be more obedient, Dustless said coldly. His tone wasn't that cold, but it made people feel a chill that went deep into their soul. Well done. Patting Dustless's shoulder, Natsuya gave him an expression that said, as expected of my little brother. Immediately, a large group of uniformed police rushed over and surrounded Ostak. Speaking of which, what about that artificial life? Sooner or later, his life will be devoured by the beast inside his body. Dustless's eyes flashed with a strange light. He frowned and said, Why don't I? Although she was used, she has already committed a crime. I have decided to keep her by my side and observe her for 3 years. It just so happens that I am lacking a maid. Natsuya waved her lace fan and spoke before Dustless. The reason why she became a maid is more important. TSK, TSK, TSK. This is an interesting discovery. I didn't expect that Dustless to be so strong. I thought he was just an ordinary police officer, but it seems that I was wrong. That kind of terrifying strength. I don't think there are many people who can do it as easily as him. A mysterious voice sounded under the night sky, and then he silently blended into the darkness. Chapter 1503. Who is that? Although the eavesdropping shadow concealed himself very cleverly and his aura was so weak that it could be ignored, Natsuki, who was focused on Rudolf Ostak, didn't notice him. However, Dustless, who was listening to everything, saw everything clearly. It seems to be Motoki Yase, who was monitoring Koju City. Using his eye power, Chun Fan was able to see everything a few kilometers away. Motoki Yase's blurry face gradually became clearer. He probably went to inform the Lion King organization. Dustless was too lazy to stop him. There was no such thing as an impenetrable wall in this world. What would be exposed sooner or later. In any case, with Natsuki Nangong protecting him, Dustless had nothing to worry about. At this moment, Rudolf Ostak seemed to have taken a stimulant. His entire body erupted with powerful strength. Even though one of his arms had been chopped off by Dustless, his strength could not be ignored. Bang, bang, bang. Even though there were 6 or 7 of them, they still couldn't suppress Rudolf Ostak. His overwhelming strength easily sent the SWAT officers flying. He even took advantage of the situation to snatch a submachine gun. Ha! Even if I die, I'll drag you down with me. Rudolf Ostak laughed maniacally and then pulled the trigger of his submachine gun. A bunch of idiots. You can't even keep an eye on a criminal. Natsuki had no choice but to find a place to hide. Dense bullets rained down on Dustless like falling snow. The submachine gun spat out a fire snake that was aimed at Dustless without shifting its target. Dustless's body was beaten into a hornet's nest. There were at least hundreds of holes in his body. Damn bastard, fall down for me. Hurry up and fall down for me. Why don't you fall down? You have to fall down for me. Rudolf Ostak's eyes were bloodshot. He kept shooting at Wu Chen's body, but the effect was negligible. His harvest was minimal. Dustless was beaten to a pulp. He didn't even have a scratch on him. The worst thing was that his eyes were lazy. He looked as if he was about to fall asleep. Bastard. Rudolf Ostak was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. You should at least be a little more professional. You should understand that you're being shot by a machine gun. You shouldn't look like a sleepy worm. Koju-kun, hurry up and come out. I saw you and Natsuki Nangong-sensei coming out. In the abandoned, depressing factory, there was suddenly a rather beautiful sound of nature. Wu Chun bowed her head and pondered. She was somewhat familiar with this strange sound. Oh, it's Naga. Natsuki Nangong clenched her fists. She didn't expect Xiao Nagisa to appear at this time. Ha ha, it's not bad to have someone die with me. Ostak was completely haunted. Dustless Ostak couldn't kill him. He could only aim at Naga. The gun that was dead silent once again spat out fire. A series of bullets were fired in Naga's direction. However, this scene only lasted for a blink of an eye. Pucci, a ray of golden light, jumped out from Dustless's fingertip. Ostak's head fell to the ground like a watermelon. Naga, how are you feeling? Koju heard Naga's voice and rushed over like lightning. He looked at Naga nervously. He only let out a sigh of relief when he was sure that she was fine. Something's not right. Even though I killed Ostak right away, Xiao Nagisa should have been killed before he did. Yet he's still alive. That's strange. Dustless walked to the place where Naga appeared. He noticed that the surrounding walls had obvious traces of ice. The ice layer was still very smooth. It was probably just thawed recently. Interesting. Picking up the bullets on the ground, Dustless's eyes flashed with a strange light. You noticed it too? Natsuki Nangong appeared behind Dustless without a sound. What do you mean I noticed it too? Don't tell me you think I'm a newbie. Dustless rolled his eyes at Natsuki Nangong. He handed her a few defrosted eggshells and analyzed. Naga was lucky enough to die because of these ice cubes. Even though it's just my guess, the one who took over Naga's body just now should be Agrora. Natsuki Nangong stared at Dustless expressionlessly. After a while, she replied, You know more than I think. Sometimes you know things that even I don't know. Young man, don't you know that in this world, the more you know about things that you shouldn't know, the faster you will die? A cold and arrogant voice with a hint of playfulness came from behind. Then, the surrounding temperature suddenly dropped. A bone-piercing chill and killing intent engulfed Dustless. Dustless turned around to look at the mysterious newcomer. There was no doubt that she was Naga, but her personality and temperament were completely different. The Naga in front of him gave off an unusually cold feeling. It was the complete opposite of her usual warm personality. An incredible person has come. Really, I thought that today was just a trivial matter. Who would have thought that so many unrelated things would appear? Natsuki Nangong sighed. She looked at Naga with caution. Dustless was much calmer. He glanced at Naga Koju. That bastard was actually knocked unconscious. Naga Koju is indeed a hopeless idiot. Let's put Naga Koju aside for now. Before I say anything, is it more appropriate to call you Naga Naga or the fourth true ancestor Aurora? Chapter 1504. A faint ripple finally appeared on Xiao Nagisa's unwavering face, but it disappeared so quickly that neither Dustless nor Nangong Natsuyu was able to catch that brief moment. What's the matter? Wasting other people's time is a crime. Dustless spoke casually and even rudely to the fourth true ancestor, Aurora. Nangong Natsuyu's face twitched as she glanced at Dustless. She had a feeling that this guy would kill her one day. However, she could also see that something was fishy. It should be because of the fourth true ancestor. His consciousness has taken over Xiao Nagisa's body. Nangong Natsuyu frowned and speculated. Why did he suddenly appear? Could be a threat to us? While Nangong Natsuyu was lost in her thoughts, Dustless was also in deep thought. However, unlike Nangong Natsu, Dustless didn't feel any fear when facing a true ancestor. He was as calm as still water, and more than that, he was curious. A life form that was artificially created, yet he was afraid that she would ruin his reputation. Nothing, Xiao Nagisa, no, Aurora, said in an extremely calm tone. I'm just curious. However, there are some things that are better left unknown. I don't want that young man to understand what happened today. That young man? Xiao Guqing? That's right. Occupying someone else's sister's body is a bad image. Dustless nodded in agreement. However, Dustless didn't feel the same way. He was still planning to seduce someone else's sister, so he would inevitably offend Aurora. And you? Aurora looked at Dustless coldly, and her cold tone remained arrogant. If you have any unrealistic thoughts, I advise you to extinguish them as soon as possible. This guy, hearing this, Dustless frowned and thought to himself, does she really think that the true ancestor is invincible? In the end, she's just a created life form. I don't understand what you mean by unrealistic thoughts. If you can, you better say it clearly. I'm not good at thinking, Dustless said expressionlessly. Why did you approach Akatsuki Koju? After saying this, Aurora looked at Natsuki Nangong. His meaning was self-evident. He had completely ignored Dustless's existence. So that's how it is. This guy probably thinks that Natsuki has been using Koju all this time. Dustless suddenly understood. Natsuki Nangong was dragging Koju everywhere to put out fires. It was indeed dangerous. Today, for example, Aurora clearly knew the identity of the fourth true ancestor and knew that he had never sucked blood before, yet he still asked Aurora to come over and help. Looks like it has nothing to do with me. But this guy's tone is really annoying. Dustless slandered Agurola inwardly as he swept a glance at him. Boom, boom, boom. Right at this moment, when Dustless thought that it had nothing to do with him, a blue light swept over and locked onto Dustless, who had let down his guard. And the attacker was precisely Aurora. That scheming T-Sich, attacking as soon as he said so. While Dustless was cursing, a golden light flashed on the surface of his skin. He knew that the monster emitting the azure ray of light was the 12th true ancestor, the enchantress's azure ice. Kinsusanu. His expression turned cold, and the vigorous chakra in his body erupted. A huge monster instantly reinforced Dustless's head. Ka. Kinsusanu suddenly trembled violently. Then, a large amount of cold mist inexplicably appeared in the surroundings. A large number of ice blocks formed on the surface of Kinsusanu, but Dustless inside was unscathed. No wonder you dare to provoke a true ancestor. With this kind of strength, you are indeed qualified. Looking at the defrosted Kinsusanu, although the surface was filled with frost and ice, Dustless's expression was normal. He was not affected at all. Dustless smiled but did not say anything. To the people of this world, a true ancestor was the most powerful kind. This kind of concept was deeply ingrained. Without the Sanctuary Treaty, perhaps the human race would have already been annihilated. However, the concept of a true ancestor being invincible and invincible couldn't be applied to Dustless. Ka-ka-ka. Another sound of ice forming could be heard. However, this time, it wasn't freezing but shattering. It can't freeze him? This voice was filled with disbelief. Even Natsuki's eyes were wide open. Her worldview was somewhat confused. Could it be that there was a human in this world that could rival a true ancestor? She couldn't help but feel excited. All along, humans and vampires seemed to be harmonious, but in reality, it was the opposite. A few decades ago, there was even a war. Strange, it doesn't seem to be magic power. Agurola asked, somewhat puzzled. Looking at that frightening appearance, she couldn't help but be somewhat alarmed. She unexpectedly felt a trace of fatal oppression. It was hard to imagine that a human could actually contend against a true ancestor. Even if she wasn't complete now, the shock it brought was indescribable. In particular, this strange monster in front of her made her feel a sense of threat. It's really strange. Her blood must be very delicious, right? Suddenly, this thought appeared in Aurora's mind. The more powerful a person was, the more delicious her blood would be. Can Susanu condense? Her dry lips softly spat out a few words. Kinsusanu's size suddenly began to grow. The layer of ice on the surface also collapsed in an instant, turning into debris. Kinsusanu's size also gradually increased. Although Dustless didn't release his full strength, its size was still a head bigger than the Enchantress's azure ice. Chapter 1505. Although the bigger one might not necessarily be the winner, but looking at the tall and straight Susanu, which was even bigger than Yao Ji's azure ice by a head, everyone was shocked. Sneak attacking me for no reason. You should at least give me an explanation, right? Dustless glanced at Aurora, who had taken over Nagisa's consciousness, and said with a cold tone. At the same time, Kinsusanu's huge eyes looked at Yao Ji's azure ice with hostility and killing intent. This girl actually has feelings for me. Is this the nature of a vampire? But she is still too young to suck my blood. Plus, Koju is my enemy. Dustless could also see the passion in Aurora's eyes. The only thing that could move her was his blood. It was normal for vampires to be obsessed with blood. Not everyone was as weird as Koju. However, it was impossible for him to let her suck his blood for free. Plus, Aurora was only taking over Nagisa's body. She was not a real vampire. Gulp. Natsuki looked at the scene in silence. She did not know why, but she wanted Dustless and Aurora to fight. It would be best if they could shatter the legend of the invincible true ancestor. Sneak attack you for no reason? Hearing this, Agurola was furious. Her cold expression loosened up, giving her a different kind of flavor. However, no one could face the anger of a true ancestor. You were trying to sow discord between Koju and cough, cough, cough. Dustless coughed twice and pretended to be uncomfortable to interrupt Aurora. He knew what she wanted to say. The current development was completely different from the original work. Dustless had tricked Koju. Gij Rochelle had already parted ways with Koju, and because of Dustless's instigation, they were like fire and water. Alright, if I remember correctly, that artificial life form, Natsuki's eyes flashed. She suddenly said to Dustless, Asteroidi, the artificial life form brought by Ostak, is in big trouble. If you don't help, her life force will be devoured by the curly beast sooner or later. How can I help? It's not like I can devour the curly beasts. Wuchen rolled his eyes and said with an innocent face. He was not omnipotent. He did not meddle in politics when he was not in position. In the original work, Akatsuki Koju had swallowed the curly beast in Asterudi's body, allowing her to survive. But now, Akatsuki Koju's script had been stolen by Dustless. Not only that, but Dustless and Akatsuki Koju's relationship was also very bad. Dustless wanted Dustless to beg Akatsuki Koju to let Asterudi die in peace. This guy should be able to do it too. Looking at Aurora, Dustless guessed that she could also devour curly beasts. After all, if Koju's imposter could do it, then there was no reason why Aurora couldn't. We can give it a try. Nangong Natsuya nodded in agreement. Aurora was definitely stronger than that half-baked Koju. But if we beg her, Wu-chan had a pained expression on his face as he looked at Aurora with a speechless expression. Moreover, there was a faint smile on the corner of Aurora's mouth that was too beautiful to behold. It was obviously a sincere smile from the bottom of his heart. This made Wu-chan even more depressed. Go take a look at Asterudi first. Stabilize her for now, Dustless said to Nangong Natsuya seriously. Pay attention to your status. I'm your superior. Nangong Natsuya looked at Dustless unhappily. She could only accept it and decisively retreated. She would not be of any help if she stayed. If a fight broke out, she might even become a burden to Dustless. What do you want to talk to me about by sending her away? Aurora, who had taken over Nagisa's body, asked. Why don't we make a deal? You help me devour the curly beast in Asterudi's body. We will return the favor. In return, I will help you revive. Dustless maintained his calm and stated his terms. Revive me? Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? Aurora's tone had a hint of anger. Dustless was obviously deceiving her like a child. If she could revive at will, she would have done so long ago. Just because you can't do it doesn't mean others can't. Dustless was still very confident. He smiled confidently and said, Anyway, you don't have to be afraid. I won't run away. Besides, I live next door to Xiao Guxing's house. That's true. After thinking about it, Aurora felt relieved. It did not matter if she was deceived by Dustless once. At most, she would kill Asterudi and let Dustless know the price of deceiving her. I can help you try, but I hope you can really revive me. Aurora looked at Dustless with a hint of warning in her eyes. She turned her head and walked to the place where Asterudi had fainted. Her eyes were jumping with unconcealable excitement. If it was possible, Aurora did not want to occupy Nagisa's body forever. Instead, she wanted her real self to face Xiao Guxing of the past and return to the intimate relationship they had before. Although this was just an extravagant hope, she still held the mentality of a fluke. Besides, she was just giving a try. She would not lose anything. Reviving you is not a problem. But do you still want to live a peaceful life with Xiao Guxing? What if the two of you join hands to deal with me? I will never allow such a thing to happen. Dustless sneered secretly. Reviving Aurora was also a plan from a long time ago. Xiao Guxing's future Akatsuki Empire could go to hell. Letting his empire of nothingness was more suitable. And Aurora was one of the loyal thugs of this empire. Such a big country needed all kinds of talents. It was impossible to count on Dustless to exhaust himself. As for whether Aurora agreed or not, it did not matter. He just needed to beat her until she was convinced. In the end, this world was still ruled by the person with the biggest fist. Chapter 1506. What Dustless did just now was just a gentle method. If Aurora didn't know what was good for her or directly rejected him, then Dustless wouldn't recommend letting her know what kind of power surpassing a true ancestor was like. Strange, Natsuki suddenly walked over and looked at Dustless in surprise. That fellow is the true fourth true ancestor. Although she's just a soul now, it's really unbelievable that you could make her submit. Just now, Aurora swallowed the curly beast in Asterudi's body and temporarily solved the crisis of Asterudi. Natsuki just happened to be lacking a maid, so she was very suitable. Hearing this, Dustless smiled mysteriously. Are you talking about Aurora? She didn't have a choice. In fact, a true ancestor isn't as difficult to deal with as you think. You just need to cater to her interests. Don't you feel pain in your back when you talk? If a true ancestor was easy to deal with, then this planet wouldn't have been monopolized by them. But this time, your method is brilliant. Natsuki curled her lips in disdain. Obviously, she didn't mean what she said. At the same time, in another direction, a big event happened. Are you sure? At that time, the sky was dark. Could it be that your eyes were playing tricks on you? Saikai Academy, which was the school of Koju and the others. At this moment, two figures were standing on the rooftop of the teaching building. One was Koju's good friend, Yasemoki, and the other was one of the three saints of the Lion King organization, Koyon Koyon. She had a ponytail and looked quite cute. She was wearing the sailor uniform of the Saikai Academy and had a very elegant temperament. She was obviously a very ordinary student, but her actual identity was one of the three saints of the Lion King organization. There's no need to answer this question. Do you think my eyes are playing tricks on me? I've been monitoring the ancient city for a long time. At that time, that guy called Dustless also happened to come. Moreover, that guy is very strange. The moves he used weren't magic, but some kind of special ability. He can also fly, and with overwhelming strength, he defeated Ostak. Yasemoki said cautiously. He was afraid that if he encountered Dustless, he would be instantly KO'd. Is it that exaggerated? With a hint of doubt in his eyes, Xian Gaiyong said softly, Dustless's origin is not clear. The only useful information we have is that he is a subordinate of Nangong Natsuki. What a pity. If he is as strong as you said, he can be pulled into our Lion King organization. It seems like Nangong Natsuki is better this time. You misunderstood what I meant. Motoki Yase smiled bitterly. After talking for so long, it turned out that it was all nonsense. Motoki Yase did not understand what he meant. To sum it up, I think that guy is very dangerous. He has no attachments and does everything without a purpose. It's as if he does everything according to his heart. Yase Motoki's tone became serious. This kind of person is not someone Koju can compare to. Although he is a true ancestor, he has his own position. At the very least, he will not attack his friends. But that Dustless is very different. To put it bluntly, he is like a hooligan who will beat up anyone he dislikes. Motoki Yase had seen it with his own eyes. Ostak had no grudge against Dustless, but he was beaten up by Dustless, and his head was smashed bloody. You have a point. Xian Gaiyong nodded slightly. He was strong and mysterious. This kind of person could cause more damage than Koju. After all, Koju was still under the control of the Lion King organization, and Dustless did everything according to his whims. No one could control him. Why don't we send someone to monitor Dustless? Motoki Yase suggested. I remember that Jijwa Shelley is Dustless's roommate. Shelley is very suitable to monitor him. That won't do. Don't forget that our purpose is to send Shelley to Koju as a concubine. It will be easier to control Koju in the future. Shelley is not suitable to monitor Dustless. Xian Gaiyong shook her head. She felt bitter in her heart. The plan was perfect, but the result made the higher-ups of the Lion King organization speechless and depressed. Everything was fine before, but since Dustless and Jijwa Shelley lived together, this girl seemed to be possessed. She disliked Koju more and more. Are we going to give up monitoring Dustless? Motoki Yase asked nervously. He felt that Dustless was more dangerous than Koju. You don't have to worry about this. Just continue to monitor Koju. As for monitoring Dustless, I have someone else in mind. Xian Gaiyong smiled mysteriously and disappeared without a trace. Wait, what are you going to do? Send someone to monitor Dustless, and then find out that he is plotting to assassinate Dustless? Motoki Yase asked worriedly before Xian Gaiyong disappeared completely. Xian Gaiyong was also stunned. She lowered her head and didn't know what to do. If Dustless was worthless, she could just give up on him. But what if he was valuable? Xian Gaiyong also had a headache. She sighed and said, let's take it one step at a time. Sigh. Troubled times. Motoki Yase shook his head and went back to class. That guy's fine now. Now fulfill your promise and quickly revive me. Nagisa, who was occupied by Agrora's consciousness, said to Dustless in a commanding tone, You want to order me? Dream on. Dustless sneered in his heart. He decided to teach Agrora a lesson. He put on an innocent expression and pretended to be surprised. Revive you? Miss, you must have mistaken me for someone else. Did I say that just now? Chapter 1507. Aurora's eyes widened, and her bright eyes dimmed. She couldn't figure out how there could be such a shameless person in this world. Although it was common to go back on one's words, this bastard was a little too shameless. She didn't expect Dustless to turn hostile so quickly. It's been at most 5 minutes, and you're already turning hostile? Aurora clenched her teeth and suppressed the killing intent in her heart. Take back your words now and fulfill your promise. I can pretend I didn't hear anything just now. Dustless's big watery eyes rolled around. With an innocent expression, he said in an extremely irresponsible tone, I don't understand what you mean. Please explain in detail. What promise did I make? Resurrect you? What a joke. Bastard, go to hell. The corner of Aurora's mouth twitched a few times. She couldn't take it anymore and went berserk on the spot. The azure light that attacked Dustless earlier descended once again and froze everything. Enchantress Azure Ice. At Aurora's command, a vassal beast that was a combination of a mermaid and a demonic bird immediately appeared. Ka. Ice appeared around Dustless once again, and the ground began to reflect light. Everything was dazzling ice, and it attacked Dustless at an extremely fast speed. This time, Aurora was really infuriated. Ka. In an instant, Dustless's body was frozen. He didn't even have time to use Kinsusinu before he tragically turned into a human-shaped ice sculpture. This is the price of angering me. You're just a mere human, yet you dare to be so arrogant. You deserve it, Aurora said with a smile of exultation. Whoosh. However, at this moment, Aurora suddenly felt a chill, especially the lower half of her body. It was bone-piercing cold, as if someone had taken off her skirt. The other parts of her body were fine. Pa! Just as she was about to turn around to see what was going on, a crisp sound suddenly rang out. Aurora's expression changed slightly, followed by grief and indignation. It's fine if you sneak attack me just now, but you still dare to sneak attack me now? Watch how I teach you a lesson. Pa. Dustless had an evil grin on his face as he appeared behind Aurora like a ghost. He lifted Xiao Nagisa's skirt and gave her a few slaps without mercy. I'm going to tear you to pieces. Agurola was furious and almost vomited blood. This bastard had smacked the butt of a true ancestor. How could she face Akatsuki Guching if news of this were spread? The flame in his heart rose to an unprecedented level. Ayo. The 12th scroll beast, Beauty Sala's deep ice, sensed Aurora's anger. It immediately opened its mouth and let out a heart-wrenching roar. Whoosh. Not only that, there were even ice shards floating in the sky. Oh, so scary. Dustless pretended to be afraid as he spoke. However, on the surface, he was indifferent. Not only was he afraid, but his frivolous tone was full of contempt. He even had a smile on his face, as if he had encountered a fun toy. Then I'll reveal a little bit of my strength, Dustless said lazily. With your looks? You want to defeat my scroll beast? Both your hands are restrained. What are you going to use to duel with Beauty Sala's deep ice? Do you think it's enough to compete in handsomeness? Although your looks are not bad, this scroll beast is not a love-struck fool. Or do you want to use that contemptuous gaze of yours to repel it? What vulgar joke. Aurora sneered. Dustless had restrained her with both his hands. What was he going to use to fight the scroll beast? TSK. You're really smart. Young lady, I'm starting to like you, but I can kill this monster with just my eyes. Dustless stared at Aurora in astonishment. Then, he calmly stared at Beauty Sala's deep ice. His eyes clearly changed. Look carefully. A miracle will happen in this instant. Even a true ancestor will be left in the dust. Dustless's eye power extended to the limit as he muttered softly, Tomb of Samsara, border prison. Bang. 2 to 3 seconds after he said that, the sound of the fight suddenly rang out. It was followed by the agonizing screams of Beauty Sala's deep ice. The mighty scroll beast was in an extremely miserable state. It was being beaten up by Dustless's shadows. How is this possible? Agrora was stunned. Who exactly attacked Beauty Sala's deep ice? Come out if you have the guts. Let's continue. With a malicious smile, Dustless lifted Xiao Nagisa's skirt again. Get lost. Agrora screamed in panic. She couldn't do anything to Dustless. She could only stop controlling Xiao Nagisa's body. Beauty Sala's deep ice also disappeared. Although it wasn't Agrora's, but that was hit, she could clearly feel the special stinging pain when she was controlling Xiao Nagisa's body. Plop! Xiao Nagisa fell to the ground as if she had fallen asleep. Only her skirt was still lifted up. Her fair skin was clearly visible. Xiao Nagisa, who fell into the ice shards, looked extremely pitiful. Really, Agrora is too irresponsible. Dustless shook his head and took the initiative to help Xiao Nagisa tidy up her skirt. His eyes were calm, and he didn't do anything out of line. His expression remained calm throughout. He was just teasing Agrora, who asked her to be so arrogant. Bastard, what are you trying to do? A trembling voice suddenly rang out. After she saw Dustless squatting beside Xiao Nagisa and helping her tidy up her skirt, her voice was filled with boundless anger. She raised her voice several times and shouted angrily out of humiliation. You despicable bastard! How dare you molest my sister in front of me? Xiao Nagisa's mind was filled with a million F***CKU. You bastard! It's fine if you bully me, but what did my sister do to you? You can't be so shameless. Chapter 1508. Koju was so angry that he almost fainted. His eyes started to roll back, and his breathing became several times faster. His red cheeks couldn't be concealed. Anger, anger, anger. The fire in his heart had reached an unprecedented level. You bastard! How dare you take advantage of my sister? Koju's eyes were spitting fire. He was like a barrel of fire that could explode at any moment. He wanted to drag everyone down with him, especially Dustless. Shut up, your sister was attacked. I saved her. Dustless's expression changed. How old is your sister? She's just a kid in middle school. Why would I do that to a kid? Koju glared at Dustless and rushed in front of Dustless. He pushed him away and looked at Nagisa nervously. She seems to be fine. Maybe I'm overthinking. After looking at Nagisa for a while, Koju let out a sigh of relief. Just as he was about to stand up, his expression froze. Don't tell me. Dustless, who had been staring at Koju's face, felt his heart skip a beat. He realized something was wrong when he saw Koju's dark expression. Just as he was about to slip away, Xiao Guqing's furious voice rang out. And you said you didn't do anything out of line. Why is Nagisa's clothes so messy? Koju looked at Dustless fiercely. The veins on his forehead were bulging. Why is it messy? Of course it's because I spanked her ass. Dustless complained in his mind, but his expression was that of a gentleman. I don't know what you're talking about. If there's nothing else, I'll leave first, Dustless said casually. Don't even think about leaving. Koju grabbed Dustless's arm and said, let me see if Nagisa is okay before you leave. If something happens to her, I'll drag you down with me, even if it costs me my life. With that, Koju helped Xiao Nagisa up and began to observe her expression and the marks on the ground. He was trying to find evidence that she had been molested by Dustless. This guy, I don't think he would do that. Dustless muttered in her heart. She had just slapped Xiao Nagsha's, but until it was bright red. What are you two doing? A surprised voice suddenly came. Dustless and Xiao Guqing both darted towards the source of the voice and saw Ji Zhuosheli, who was holding the snow haze wolf. It's him. Xiao Guqing slightly knitted his eyebrows. He was a simple man and didn't try to hide anything from Ji Zhuo. He was about to tell Ji Zhuosheli what he had seen just now and tell her to pay attention to Dustless. My little sister was attacked. Koju's face was filled with grief as he pointed at Dustless. I just found him. Koju, you bastard. Dustless had been staring at Koju the whole time. Seeing that Koju was about to say something bad about him, Dustless immediately interrupted him and yelled, You bloody scum! How dare you do that to your own sister? What? Koju stared at Dustless in shock, not understanding what he was talking about. You bastard. You are a scum. How dare you try to lift your sister's skirt? You don't deserve to be a human being. 2 lines of tears fell from Dustless's eyes. His face was filled with sorrow as he pushed all the blame onto Koju. Puff. Hearing him, Koju almost fainted. He couldn't help but puke out a mouthful of blood. You... Pointing at Dustless with a trembling finger, Koju didn't expect him to be so shameless. Not only was he lying through his teeth, he was even crying. How dare you do that to your own sister? Jijwashilai, who had a strong sense of justice, immediately raised the snow haze wolf and thrust it towards Ji-Hao without saying anything. 81 of the binding ways, space break. A transparent, defensive magic screen appeared in front of Jijua Shalai without any sign, blocking her way. Shalai, don't get angry. Don't forget your mission. If you kill a scum like Koju, you will also be punished by the Lion King organization. Scum like him should be killed by everyone. Therefore, leave the mission of teaching him a lesson to me. Dustless said with a gentle face, then looked at Koju with an evil grin. However, Jijua Shilai, who was furious, didn't notice it. She only stared at Koju with hatred. Thank you, Dustless. Be careful, he is the 4th true ancestor. Jijua Shilai nodded gratefully. Seeing this, Koju almost collapsed. He looked at Dustless with anger and sadness. This guy is such a bastard. How dare he use me as a tool to pick up girls? Don't listen to him. Actually, Koju was about to expose Dustless's plan, but the latter turned into a beam of light and dove down, mercilessly kicking Koju's face. Lightspeed kick. The flashing foot flew out mercilessly, creating a huge impact. Koju was blown away like a cannonball, smashing a few walls in a row. Brother, for my chastity, just admit it. It's normal for vampires to be lustful. Dustless silently walked towards Koju and looked at his burnt body, then said loudly, Your chastity? Koju looked at Dustless, who was walking towards him with black eyes. Hearing those words, he had an impulse to kill himself. This guy is so disgusting. Sooner or later, I'll be pissed to death. Bastard, just you wait. I will expose you, unless you kill me. Koju looked like a demon. His eyes were red, and his whole eye sockets were bloodshot. He had never been so frustrated in his life. He was about to become a mental patient. Chapter 1509. Xiao Guqing was both angry and ashamed. He had never wanted to kill someone so badly. However, even though this person was right in front of him, he couldn't do it, not even the so-called true ancestor. Don't say that. I didn't molest your sister. Do you have any proof? Dustless asked with a smile. Xiao Guqing turned around and snorted. He didn't see anything, but he couldn't stand being framed and beaten up by Dustless. He hated Dustless. Dustless laughed weirdly and said calmly, Besides, you seem to have forgotten one thing. The current situation is in my favor. You are the perverted uncle. Hearing Wu Chen's words, Xiao Guqing's face darkened immediately. He really couldn't understand why Jijua Shelley was staring at him like he was her enemy. He had never offended her, but she was always looking at him like he was her enemy. On the other side, Nagisa, how are you feeling? A while later, Nagisa woke up. Jijua Shelley looked at her with concern. After all, they were classmates. What's wrong? Nagisa showed an innocent face. Jijua Shelley sighed with relief, then said angrily, The 4th true ancestor wanted to molest you. Fortunately, Dustless helped him. Otherwise, that scum... Ouch! Nagisa's eyes turned red. She groaned in pain and rubbed her buttocks. She even felt the pressure to stand up. This sudden change stunned Jijua Shelley. They were both girls, so they had nothing to worry about. Therefore, Jijua Shelley just lifted Nagisa's skirt awkwardly. The 4th true ancestor, that bastard. Looking at the red handprint, Jijua Shelley was enraged. Spiritual power was already flowing out of her body. I'll go find that scum now and avenge you. Jijua Shelley, who valued ties and had a strong sense of justice, left angrily. The front end of her snow wolf was filled with killing intent. The fourth true ancestor? Did he molest me? Damn it. Xiao Nagisa agreed. She didn't know that the fourth true ancestor was her brother. So, you're saying that you don't accept my conditions? Dustless squatted next to Koju, hoping that he would take the blame for him. However, this brat refused and even said that he would expose Dustless. You molested my sister, and you want me to admit that I did it? Only an idiot would do such a thing. Only a retard would accept it. Koju mocked. Really? Dustless was too lazy to continue talking nonsense with him. The next second, he raised his right foot. Persuasion is useless. It seems like punches and kicks are more effective. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Dazzling light covered his little feet, and a huge halo of destruction spread out. Koju's face flashed with fear, and cold sweat dripped down. Although vampires had the curse of immortality and could recover, Koju wasn't a masochist. Ka. Golden lightning emerged from Koju's body as he tried to resist Dustless's violent suppression. Alas, he was destined to meet a tragic end. Dustless was only a half-baked true ancestor. Even if other true ancestors came over, Dustless could use a light-speed kick to get rid of their curly beasts if he wanted to. Ka. The golden lightning overflowing from Koju's body pounced on Dustless, but the effect was negligible. Dustless had his hands in his pockets, completely ignoring the existence of the lightning. On the other hand, the light on his feet was getting brighter and brighter. Koju was at a loss. Light-speed kick. Aiming at Koju's vital point, Dustless mercilessly sent out a kick. Yolo. Woo. A blood-curdling scream that was 100 times more miserable than before resounded through the sky. A mushroom cloud of flames emerged from Koju's body as he was sent flying again. This time, he became a eunuch even more miserably. However, it didn't matter. True ancestors had strong recovery abilities, and the places that were kicked out could grow back again. However, this wasn't a good experience. Perhaps no one would be able to endure it. Dustless didn't know exactly how it felt, but just from the cracking sound and the sight of Koju rolling on the ground, ignoring the scorched earth, Dustless knew that it wasn't a good experience. Still not dead, Shelley, who had rushed over, saw that Koju was only hovering between life and death in pain. She said with dissatisfaction, "You did it too beautifully." Looking carefully at the place where Koju was covering, Shelley's face flashed with embarrassment. She secretly gave Dustless a thumbs up and said, "You did the right thing." Poochie. Koju was so angry that he spat out another mouthful of blood after hearing Shelley's praise. "I didn't have a choice. This bastard is scum. He molested his sister, and now he's blaming it on me. Don't stop me. I want to die now." Dustless picked up a sharp weapon from the ground. His face was full of despair. "Why don't you die and purify the world?" Koju shouted hysterically. However, he didn't expect Shelley to kick him. Bang! Shelley kicked Koju in the stomach. He grimaced in pain and felt extremely depressed. According to Koju's imagination, the one who should be beaten up was Dustless, not him. "You little bastard, you could have just taken the blame, but you forced me to use other means." Dustless laughed inwardly. He was a man who had lived for hundreds of years. If he couldn't even beat a teenager, it would be too funny. Just now, he had used an illusion to confuse Shelley and make her think that Koju was the one who molested Nagisa. Dustless, on the other hand, was a righteous man who was framed. Chapter 15:10. Koju's face turned ugly, as if he had just swallowed 10 tons of flies. He ignored the pain all over his body and looked at Dustless. Compared to him, the other ancestors were too cute. At least they wouldn't use such a despicable method. Forget it. I'll spare him this time. He's not Gisa's brother after all. Dustless said mercifully. Keep pretending. Koju wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He could only look at Shelley silently. He didn't know why, but no matter what explanation he heard, she still believed that he was the murderer. GMO Shelley punched and kicked Koju angrily. Scum, bastard. You won't even spare your own sister. Koju vomited blood, but he could only endure it silently. He swore to himself that he would make Dustless pay him back 100-fold. Stop hitting Kojo-kun. Nagisa couldn't help but say. Kojo looked at GMO Shelley and found himself in a miserable state. His whole body was burned, and his face was swollen like a pig's head. Let's go. I'll treat you to a meal. Wu-chan glanced at GMO Shelley, then dragged GMO Shelley and Xiao Nagsha away. That high-spirited look of Wu-chan made Xiao Guqing feel dizzy. Ouch! He wanted to stand up, but the pain was so unbearable that he had to lie on the ground. Half an hour later, he finally felt better and could stand up. Whoosh! 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 Suddenly, a sharp sound was heard. Koju was startled. He thought that Dustless had come back to annoy him. Unlike his usual lazy self, he immediately got into a fighting stance. However, when he raised his head, he saw a familiar face. Yes! Koju was stunned. How did this guy appear? He was distracted and didn't see him clearly. Cough, cough, cough. Yes Moki coughed awkwardly and pretended that he didn't know anything. Koju, what happened to you? Who beat you? Do you need to call the police? Although Yes Motoki clearly saw Koju getting beaten up, he still had to play dumb when it was time to do so. That's not important. Koju's eyes shone as he stared at Motoki Yes. Remembering the characteristics of vampires, Koju's eyes turned crimson. That bastard Gu-chung. Could it be that he wants to suck my blood? Motoki Yes was not an idiot. He knew what that fervent gaze meant. Without thinking, he immediately ran away. He had a good relationship with Koju, but that did not mean that he was gay. Stop, Yes. We're friends. You have to help me. Moki Yes ran very fast, but Koju's reaction was also surprisingly fast. He grabbed Moki Yes's collar and bit his neck mercilessly, and in another direction. Dustless was having a great time with Mu Shelley and Xiao Nagisa. Although Xiao Nagisa was very worried about Xiao Guqing, she was fooled by Dustless. Mu Shelley even joined Dustless, helping him to fool Xiao Nagisa, his classmate. In Mu Shelley's mind, Koju was already labeled as a super pervert. The three of them went crazy for a few hours before returning home. On the way back, they met Koju. Although the recovery ability of vampires was not as good as Dustless's tin-tail body, it was still pretty good. Especially after sucking blood, the recovery ability was amazing. This guy must have sucked blood. Otherwise, he wouldn't have recovered so fast. In the corridor, Dustless stared at Koju's back in surprise. At this moment, Koju seemed to have become a different person. When he looked at Dustless, the anger and frustration had disappeared. It was as if he knew that he was not Dustless's opponent. Of course, it was also a kind of forbearance. When the time was right, Koju would show his sharp fangs. Do as you wish. If you don't know what's good for you, I don't mind teaching you another lesson. You can say that it's the seasoning of life. It's not bad to have a few more strong opponents in life. It's really uncomfortable to be at the top. Dustless stretched his body and said, after playing with Xiao Nagisa and Mu Shelley for a few hours, he was still a bit tired. You're not that tired, are you? You were so excited when you were beating Koju. Mu Shelley said to Dustless while opening the door. How can it be the same? Dustless shook his head and glanced at Mu Shelley. She and Xiao Nagisa were having a lot of fun, but he himself was exhausted. When he was shopping with women, it was always the man who carried the bags and things. Creak. The door was gently pushed open. Mu Shelley and Dustless thought that there was no one in the room, but a dark figure suddenly rushed out and pounced on them when they were careless. However, Wu-chun was obviously not welcomed, and was even ignored. The black figure happily hugged Shelley while murmuring something. He was very excited. Shelley, long time no see. You're getting more and more beautiful. The dark figure seemed to be very familiar with Mu Shelley. She rubbed her forehead against Mu Shelley's shoulder in an especially intimate way, and her gem-like eyes were filled with happiness. Xiahua, long time no see. Although Mu Shelley was embarrassed, and her face blushed, she didn't stop her. Without a doubt, She was also very happy to see her close friend. "Oh, it's Huang Ban Xiahua." Dustless was enlightened and calmly looked at this scene. His face looked normal, but his eyebrows were slightly knitted as he had sensed that something was wrong. Chapter 15:11. Huangban Sayaka and Jijua Shelley were happily catching up with each other. They didn't even care about Dustless's existence. The two girls were talking and laughing, looking very harmonious. However, Dustless felt that someone was spying on him from time to time. There were only 3 people in the big room. Without a doubt, the one who was spying on him was either Jijua Shelley or Huangban Sayaka. How strange. After drinking a few cups of hot tea, Wu Chen's relaxed brows furrowed again. That Huangban Sayaka, is she spying on me? Dustless thought it was Jijua Shelley who was spying on him, but he didn't expect it to be Huangban Sayaka. Although she concealed it well, Wu Chen, who was sensitive by nature, had experienced several worlds. He could feel the penetrating meaning in her vigilant eyes. In the future, after a while, Huangban Sayaka suddenly raised her voice and said loudly, "I will live here." What? Wu Chun and Jijua Shelley didn't know how to react to this sudden vow. They stared at Huangban Sha, who was beaming with joy, with their mouths agape. Don't tell me this guy is, after being stunned for a while, Dustless, who was the first to recover, looked a bit gloomy. Deep in his eyes, a burning flame of anger flashed across. She is probably spying on me. Damn, the Lion King organization. Not only are they meddling in other people's business, but they're also spying on me. Is my existence a threat to the peace of the human race? Wu Chun guessed in his heart and felt a burst of anger. No wonder it was that Yace Moki who spilled the beans. Thinking back to the battle with Ostak, when Agrora showed up, and when Akatsuki bullied Koju, Yace Moki seemed to have been observing the battle. As for Jijua Shelley, Dustless looked at Shelley. He didn't think that she would betray him, and there was no need for her to betray the Lion King organization, because they were roommates. "Oomph, you dare to mess with me? Then I will take my revenge." Dustless sneered. Although he didn't know where the Lion King organization was, he knew a lot about Xian Gaiyong, one of the 3 saints. But, as everyone knew, the Lion King organization specialized in sending their wives for 20 years, and the Lion King organization specialized in marrying their daughters for 20 years. They could flirt, live together, warm the bed, and even have sex without anyone knowing. On the surface, it was a supervision, but in reality, it was a professional job of sending girls. What a great, gentlemanly organization. However, when it came to Dustless, he couldn't bring himself to be happy. Anyway, let's go find that ancient idler first. I remember that she's a girl with glasses and 2 ponytails. Her real name seems to be Fada, one of the strongest attack mages in Japan. Dustless recalled the relevant information about ancient song. He heard that the 3 saints of the Lion King organization were quite powerful, and even the true ancestors of the vampires were extremely afraid of them. Ancient Leisure had an ability called Silence Break, which allowed him to insert an attack that shouldn't have existed in the interval of time. It was an absolute preemptive attack power. Although he couldn't stop time or achieve the effect of teleportation, after the activation of the ability, he would only leave the reality that the opponent was defeated by his attack. With this ability, he became a monster that even the true ancestor of vampires had to respect. In other words, anyone who encountered Ancient Idler would be at a disadvantage. Interesting. Is this the Silent Break ability? This ability is invincible. TSK. Standing in front of the window, Dustless looked down at Itagami Island. His eyes were fixed on the horizon. Suddenly, he saw Xian Qiang, who was studying in Saikai Academy. Looks like I can only let her do as she pleases. I can't kick her out of my home, can I? Dustless felt a headache coming on. This was a shared apartment, and it was impossible for him to kick her out. He needed Jijua Shelley's permission to do so. If that's the case, I'll have to look for trouble with the Lion King organization. Dustless stretched his body. He didn't want to be a busybody. After all, Ancient Idler would sleep with Jijua Shelley, so he didn't have to worry about anything. Hey, he went to the closet and took out his pajamas. When he was about to take a shower and sleep, he heard Ancient Idler's voice. Her voice was filled with jealousy. Don't you think it's perverted for a man like you to live in an apartment with 2 girls? Especially during these few days when I wasn't around. Did you do anything out of line to Shelley? Ancient Idler stared at Dustless with her bright eyes. Her clear eyes were full of wisdom. She would be able to find a loophole if there was one. As expected, this girl is gay. Dustless shuddered at Ancient Idler's strange interest in Ancient Idler. Why was she so happy to live in this apartment? She was treating him like a rival in love. I think you're even more perverted. You know that I'm a man, but you still shamelessly live in this apartment. You're obviously here to flirt with me. Dustless retorted sharply. Flirt with you? Ancient Idler's mouth twitched. She felt that Dustless was too shameless. She might get pregnant if she talked too much with him. The purpose of living in this apartment was just as Dustless thought. She was here to spy on him. Miss, you probably don't know about it yet, Dustless sneered. The Lion King organization had another nickname, the organization that sent women. Shelley was an example. She was sent to Koju town as a concubine, but Dustless ruined it. Now, Ancient Idler was sent here to spy on Dustless. Her orders were probably similar to Shelley's. If they could rope him in, they would do so. Once they realized that he was harmful to humanity, they would eliminate him immediately. Chapter 15:12. Huangban Sha glared at Dustless angrily. She thought, this guy is too rude. He doesn't know how to be a gentleman at all. Ladies' first rule is quite popular in this world. However, the tragic thing was that it didn't work here with Dustless. Fine, you win. Stomping her feet in anger, Yaha also felt helpless. At the end of the day, she was just a guest, and Wu Chun and Jizhua Shuelai had the final say. Huang Bansha and Yahua were the ones who had the final say. With a hollow laugh, Wu Chun put on a compassionate expression and said, if you're willing to beg me, I'm willing to give up 1/4 of my bed for you to sleep. 1/4? Huang Bansha's face darkened. She looked at Dustless's bedroom. It was just a small place. 1/4 of it was only enough for half of her body. Oof, I'd rather sleep on the sofa. Huang Bansha glanced at Dustless coldly and turned her head away. She would rather die than live in dishonor. Sha, let's sleep together, Shelley said. Shelley, I knew you still love me. Hearing Wu Chen's words, Huang Bansha was overjoyed. She pulled Jizhua and Shelley into her arms, then looked at Wu Chun with an exultant look on her face. Boring. Glancing faintly at Huangban Sayaka, Wu Chun turned around to take a bath and sleep. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was the morning of the next day. Since Koju still needed to go to school, Wu Chun and Jizhua Shelley, who were in charge of monitoring him, naturally had to follow him. Although not Suki Nangong had said that she would be in charge of Koju's Rainbow Sea Academy, Wu Chun, who wanted to cause trouble for the Lion King organization, decisively followed. What made him speechless was that Huangban Sha was still following him closely. This world is crazy, Dustless complained. He and Jizhua Shelley were monitoring Koju while Huangban Sha was monitoring him. It felt like the world was a complete mess. Space was limited in the subway, and it was rush hour now, so it was very crowded. Bumps and collisions were inevitable. Bastard, where are you putting your hand? Suddenly, an ear-piercing shriek was heard. Dustless froze as he suddenly realized that his hand had been grabbed by a soft arm. He subconsciously followed the source. The person that entered his eyes was a beautiful young girl with soft golden hair that was as dazzling as gold. Her big watery eyes were bright and full of expression. She was wearing the school uniform of Kai-Hai Academy, and her slender and beautiful legs were exposed to Dustless's sight. Dustless was in a daze. He asked tentatively, Blue Feather, Shallow Onion? You know me? The blonde girl was obviously stunned. She looked at Dustless with some surprise, then grabbed his hand and said coldly, Since it's me, you still dare to touch my butt. This is a knowing violation of the law. That's a double crime. The person who had ambushed shallow blue feathers was dustless. It's an unavoidable factor, Dustless replied with a serious expression. In fact, it really was an unavoidable factor. The space was limited, and it was very crowded. Shallow blue feathers was walking around, so it was normal for her to bump into him. Cough, cough, cough. Miss, what happened just now was a misunderstanding. Please believe my friend. Shelley noticed the conflict between Dustless and shallow blue feathers. She quickly came to the rescue. We are roommates. Please believe him. Sure enough, I can't let Akatsuki take advantage of me. He looked at Shelley, touched. It was the right decision to save her from Akatsuki's evil clutches. You better not let me see you again. She shook off Dustless's hand and glanced at Dustless, then continued to walk toward Akatsuki. What does this kid do? Dustless was quite puzzled after seeing this. He looked left and right and didn't find anything special about Koju. He was simply too weak. Despite being a true ancestor, he didn't seem to have any deterrence at all. His hair made him look like someone who deserved a beating. It's me and Shelley this time. You won't be so lucky next time, Huangban Sha said arrogantly. Dustless smiled and waved his hand. It was indeed Shelley who had helped him. If she hadn't, he might have caused some unnecessary trouble. Looks like we're here. After today, I'll treat you two to a meal. However, Huangban Sha shook her head decisively with a look of disdain. I refuse. If I eat with you, I will definitely get pregnant. This guy is really... Dustless didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't want to bicker with Huangban Sha. He looked at the magnificent school building through the window. That was his destination today, Saihai Academy. What grade is that Zhangguiyang? Dustless muttered to himself. He really didn't know, so he could only ask Natsuki Nangong. She should know which grade Zhangguiyang was in. As for Natsuki Nangong's office, it was easy to find. It was on the highest floor of Saihai Academy. It should be there. Looking up at the majestic building that was dozens of stories high, even though it was hundreds of meters away, Wu Chan could still see it clearly, especially when the windows were open. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Dustless turned into a ray of light and rushed up. The speed of light was too fast, and no one could see it clearly. He just happened to enter Natsuki Nangong's office through the open window. However, the scene in front of him shocked Dustless. What are you doing? Also, did I come to the wrong place? Chapter 15:13. He saw Nangong Natsuki lying naked on the sofa. Her pure white back was clearly visible, and Astaruti, who was wearing a maid uniform, was massaging her. He could even hear Natsuki nodding her head. Cough, cough, cough. Dustless had to cough twice to prove his existence. Due to the angle of Natsuki Nangong's body, he could even see where he shouldn't be looking. Astaruti looked at Dustless in a daze. Her gem-like eyes were calm, and she only spoke after 4 or 5 seconds. Dustless has invaded. Do you want to attack? Natsuki Nangong turned her head to look at Dustless, who was embarrassed, and said lazily, climbing in through my window. That's a high-level method. There are dozens of floors between us, but... Natsuki Nangong paused for a moment. Then her voice became very low. You better give me a reasonable explanation, or else... Natsuki Nangong's tone was resolute, and in Dustless's ears, it sounded like she wanted to die together with him. This is a misunderstanding. Who would have thought that you would enjoy it so much? Hearing this, Wu Chun argued with reason. He was speechless about Natsuki Nangong. Now it seems to be working hours, but you are actually doing a massage here. Can you blame me for this? What's your purpose? Natsuki Nangong asked calmly. Don't tell me it's for the Lion King Authority. I heard that they have already noticed you. Then your information is really outdated. Wu Chun rolled his eyes and sat on Nangong, Nayu's usual seat. He glanced at her exquisite figure from the corner of his eyes and nodded slightly. You have guts. I've seen your butt 9 times, your chest 13 times. While Dustless was admiring her body, Natsuki Nangong's teasing voice sounded. Although it was very quiet, there was a different kind of pressure. Looking closely, Astaruti's hair was already dripping with sweat. Only Dustless was able to deal with it unperturbed, turning a deaf ear to everything as if they didn't exist. "Don't you dare slander my innocence," Dustless coldly said. His heart was filled with awkwardness. Just now, he had been in a daze. That was why not Suki Nangong had caught him. However, Dustless would never admit to this kind of thing. "Sorry for the sudden visit. I just want to ask who that ancient leisure song is. How do you know this person?" Not Suki Nangong turned her head and stared at Dustless, but when she mentioned the name Ancient Leisure Song, her tone was obviously several times louder. "Although I don't know what your relationship is, if you want to take revenge on her, then—" Just as Nangong Natsia was about to persuade Dustless to extinguish his ambitions, Dustless spoke first. "You're right. I want to take revenge on her." Wu Chen nodded fearlessly and admitted, "Those guys from the Lion King organization don't know what's good for them. They actually sent someone to spy on me. They've gone too far," Dustless said hatefully. He was determined to teach the Lion King organization a lesson. "They sent people to spy on you?" Not Suki Nangong was stunned. She raised her eyebrows and her face didn't look good. No matter what, Wu Chun was still her subordinate. Being suddenly monitored by the people of the Lion King organization without distinguishing between right and wrong, wasn't this equivalent to slapping her face? "Not just spying on me. They already sent people over. My roommate went from 1 to 2. Wu Chen rolled his eyes angrily and said impatiently, "In short, where is the guy called Leisure Ancient Song? This time I'm going to beat her until her mother can't recognize her." His arrogance knows no bounds. Not Suki Nangong sighed. "You're very strong, but Ancient Leisure Song isn't weak either. Her ability is very strange. I still haven't found a way to suppress her. It's not a matter of strength." Dustless nodded. Ancient Leisure Song's ability was indeed extraordinary. If they were to fight, Dustless was confident that he could kill her in an instant. However, if she wanted to use her ability to act shamelessly, Dustless couldn't do anything about it. However, she could run away, but the temple couldn't. He could smash the Lion King organization's headquarters. But not Suki Nangong's eyes were filled with hostility. She said bluntly, "Those people and I are competitors. This time, they dare to send people to bully my little brother. I won't let them off so easily." Not Suki Nangong's angry look was quite cute. She can't be thinking of. Dustless's expression was strange. He suddenly guessed what Not Suki Nangong wanted to do. "Let's go. We'll go and ask for an explanation. We can teach Ancient Leisure Song a lesson." Heavy footsteps could be heard in the corridor. "Why is she looking for me?" The young girl lowered her head and thought. This person was Ancient Leisure Song. She slowly walked toward the rooftop. Her heart was filled with questions. Although she and Not Suki Nangong were familiar with each other, they rarely interacted with each other. The Lion King organization's relationship with the other departments was very bad. Creak. She gently pushed open the locked door. A petite black figure appeared in front of her. She was dressed like a gothic lowly. No matter what, she was holding a parasol and a black lace fan. However, what made Ancient Leisure Song dissatisfied was that there was another person standing beside Not Suki Nangong. "Yo!" Dustless turned around and waved his hand. He revealed a polite smile. "It's you?" Ancient Leisure Song's expression froze. A trace of anger flashed in her eyes. She didn't say that there would be other people joining them. She felt like she was cheated. "You feel uncomfortable just like that? But you sending a spy to spy on me is 100 times worse than this." Wu Chen didn't give Xian Guyong any face the moment he came up. This guy said that he would monitor him, and he really did. Did he really think that the Lion King organization was a local snake? To be honest, I called you here to slap your face. Chapter 15:14. This bastard is doing this on purpose. Hearing this, Nangong Nayu's beautiful face twitched a few times. Her stomach churned, and she almost spat out the black tea she just drank. "I called you here to slap you in the face." Thinking back to Dustless's arrogant words, Nangong Nayu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "I shouldn't get involved in this matter. Sooner or later, I will be killed by this guy. Being so arrogant will also bring me bad luck." Before she came, She had discussed with Dustless that they had to act according to her plan. Who would have thought that as soon as she met Xian Guiyong, Dustless would turn hostile? Teach me a lesson? Even with Xian Guiyong's calm personality, her expression collapsed at this moment. First of all, as one of the 3 saints of the Lion King organization, Xian Guiyong's strength was unquestionable. Even the true ancestor was wary of her. Now that Dustless said he wanted to slap her in the face, how could she bear it? Absolutely not. Not to mention, Nangong Nayu was right in front of her, and their relationship was not very harmonious. If I cower, I will be ridiculed by her. Xian Guiyong calmed herself down and coldly stared at Dustless. She asked politely, "If you want to hit me, you can do so, but first give me a reason that can convince me." Dustless was not moved by her words. He casually said, "I have no reason to cause trouble for you. I just don't like an old virgin like you. Is this reason enough?" Poochie. This time, Nangong finally could not hold back and spat out all the black tea. She secretly gave Dustless a thumbs up, but her expression did not change. She took the initiative to distance herself from Dustless, afraid that she would be implicated. "You asked for it." Xian Guiyong could no longer bear it, and a cold light shot out from her beautiful eyes. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. After that, Xian Guiyong flashed across the air and appeared in front of Dustless. He clenched his fists and punched towards Dustless's face mercilessly. The explosive power contained in his fists was enough to destroy a building. Xian Guiyong's body power was even greater than Ji Zhuosheli's. On the other hand, Dustless remained calm from beginning to end. His expression didn't change at all, as if he hadn't realized all of this. I thought you were strong, but it turns out that you're just a vase with a loose tongue. I need to teach you a lesson to vent my anger." Xian Guiyong did not show any mercy as long as he did not kill Dustless. At this moment, her heart was burning with anger, like an erupting volcano. As one of the 3 saints of the Lion King organization, she was called an old maid. What kind of shame and humiliation was this? Asking for trouble. Dustless slowly shook his head and watched the incoming fist. His mouth whispered, "Armament hockey hardening." Bang, bang, bang. The entire roof shook as a violent shock wave spread out. Even Nangong Nayu was forced to retreat. She looked at Nangong Nayu. He managed to block it. Nangong Nayu's mouth trembled as she looked at Dustless and Xian Guiyong with her eyes wide open. Dustless put his hands in his pockets and didn't put up any defense. His chest was hit by Xian Guiyong's fist, but nothing happened. How was this possible? Not only Nangong Nayu was shocked, Xian Guiyong's jaw almost dislocated. She looked at Dustless in a daze. She finally understood why this guy dared to call her an old maid. He was an out-and-out capable person. Although this girl's strength is average, her ability is very troublesome. I need to end this as soon as possible. It's best if I can injure her severely without killing Xian Guiyong. Having made a decision in his heart, Dustless no longer concealed himself and revealed his true appearance. Boom, boom, boom. An explosion sounded in the cloudless sky. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. The soft sky was torn apart, and a 10-kilometer-long dark ravine appeared in the sky. Let alone Itagami Island, the ravine was getting bigger and bigger. Ka-ka-ka. Xian Guiyong's expression changed drastically as a terrifying aura gathered around her body. She couldn't help but kneel down. The culprit was none other than this harmless-looking young man. Now I have the right to call you an old maid, right? Squatting down, Wu Chan playfully grabbed Xian Guiyong's chin, picked his ears, and asked with a smile, "By the way, I've always been a vengeful person. Just now, who said that he wanted to teach her a lesson?" Xian Guiyong forced a smile after hearing this sentence, but it was uglier than crying. Under this monstrous aura, forget about teaching Dustless a lesson. If it wasn't for her strong foundation, just this aura alone would have been enough to knock her out. What kind of monster is this bastard? Is there a 5th primogenitor in this world? Nangong Natsuki and Xian Guiyong sucked in a breath of cold air as they looked at the sky that had been torn apart. This was like the wrath of a god. With his own aura, he could destroy the boundless sky in one fell swoop. Destroying the world would not be a problem. Your Lion King organization sent people to spy on me. Don't tell me you don't intend to give me an explanation. I know your ability is very troublesome, but as the saying goes, a monk can run away, but the temple can't run with him. If you don't give me a reasonable explanation, I will dismantle your Lion King organization. Both of his eyes shot out scarlet demonic light, and the surroundings immediately froze. Xian Guyong didn't dare to doubt the authenticity of this sentence. For a temperamental person like Wu Chun, he might have dismantled the Lion King's mechanism because he was in a bad mood. So this is the reason why you are finding trouble with me. At the same time, Xian Guyong heaved a sigh of relief. She thought it was some idiot who provoked Dustless. She didn't expect it to be because of such a trivial matter. But this matter must be dealt with carefully. Xian Guyong opened her mouth but closed it in the end. This matter wasn't a small matter, but it wasn't a big matter either. The key was how to deal with it. If they don't give Dustless an explanation, he might really destroy the Lion King organization in anger. Chapter 15:15. Koyomi felt a headache as she regretted it. It's all Yasemoki's fault. Although the relationship between Koyomi and Yasemoki was unclear, and the two of them even had an ambiguous relationship, she still complained that Yasemoki was a little reckless this time. If this fellow could report Dustless's information in a little more detail, it would also not go to the extent of stirring up this sort of big trouble. Oh right, an idea flashed through Xiaogu's mind. He calmly explained, "You've misunderstood. We didn't send anyone to spy on you. You want to deny it?" Dustless frowned. If it was a stranger, he could fool them, but as a transmigrator, he knew that Hanban Sayaka was the Lion King organization's dancing beauty. She had Rokushiki heavy armor demon subduing Bao, Huang Hualin. Then tell me about it. Wu Chun listened attentively. The real reason why we sent Hanban Sayaka to your side is... Koyomi took a deep breath and tried to calm herself down. I hope that you and Sayaka will get along well. You have the nerve to say such a lousy excuse? Dustless curled his lips in disdain, but this was the truth. The Lion King organization had another nickname, Sister Sending Agency. However, Dustless felt that it was a lousy excuse. Natsuki Nangong could still reluctantly accept it. The Lion King organization often did such things. Ji Ishwa was the best example. On the surface, she was the fourth ancestor's monitor, but in reality, she was sent to Koju as a wife to control him. Natsuki felt that it was normal for Koju to have such an idea. If Dustless had a future, they could use Hanban Sayaka to control him. Even if Dustless was useless, they could just retreat. Bang, bang, bang. Suddenly, there was a messy sound of footsteps in the corridor. There's always someone who doesn't know what's going on. Dustless's face was filled with killing intent. The Haushika Haki just now was really shocking, and the endless void was torn apart. Such an unusual weather change couldn't be hidden from someone's eyes. Bang! The locked door was kicked open, and a silver-haired boy came into view. Dustless. When he saw Dustless's face, Koju's expression turned gloomy. From the moment he met Dustless, Koju's tragic life began. Becoming the fourth ancestor didn't bring him supreme glory, but countless tragic events. Even his younger sister's opinion of him had changed. She treated Koju as a pervert and kept a respectful distance from him. A lot of bad luck had started after meeting Dustless. Gucheng, don't look at me with such hatred. Some occasions require a positive character or a supervillain. Dustless shrugged and said helplessly. The corner of Koju's mouth twitched, and he immediately understood what that meant. His expression became even more gloomy as he said, "So, I am destined to be the tragic villain, and you are the hero? Not bad." Dustless smiled and nodded. Koju's face turned red, and countless unwillingness rushed into his head. An unprecedented resentment appeared, and his body began to emit golden lightning. Thanks to you, I wasn't interested in the identity of the fourth ancestor. But, thanks to your oppression and humiliation, I awakened and controlled a curly beast. Koju's cold tone was a bit proud. Is that so? as expected of the strongest fourth ancestor. Dustless's expression was ordinary as he said softly, "Looking at the formation, it should be the fifth curly beast, the lion's yellow chicken. No, it should be called the lion's gold, right?" Although Dustless changed his words, Dustless still made Koju angry. Lion's yellow chicken? What kind of disgusting name was that? Are you ready? Koju said coldly. When his voice fell, Xian Gaiyong and Natsuki's expressions changed slightly, and they were very dissatisfied with Koju. "Koju, this is a school. You want to release your curly beast. Don't talk nonsense." Natsuki scolded with a stern face. "The personal grudge between you two is a misunderstanding." Natsuki glared at Dustless. She knew that this bastard was purposely making things difficult for Koju every day. "Please stop," Xian Gaiyong said calmly. She meant that Koju was not allowed to release his curly beast, let alone a true ancestor's curly beast. Even a normal vampire's curly beast would be extremely dangerous to students. It might even cause Itagami Island to explode. Koju was the fourth ancestor, and his magic power was above the dragon vein. His curly beast could even destroy heaven and earth. This was the reason why the ancestors were so arrogant. "It's fine. I can now perfectly control the fifth curly beast, the lion's yellow chicken. No, the lion's gold." Koju's mouth twitched, and his face darkened. Unknowingly, he was also led into a ditch by Dustless. "Come out, lion's gold." His magic power exploded to an unimaginable degree. A large number of mysterious runes appeared on Koju's curly beast. Then, a golden divine beast descended from the sky. So strong, Xian Gaiyong and Natsuki's expressions changed. A true ancestor's curly beast was no joke. It could easily destroy Itagami Island. "Then I'll get serious too." Dustless's eyes narrowed as he looked at the golden lion descending from the sky. His dry lips parted slightly. "Tao Breaker's 90 black coffin." Countless black crescent moons descended from the sky. If one looked carefully, they would find that each of them was actually a terrifying blade. Their densely packed numbers blotted out the sky. In just a moment, the world became dark as all of them attacked Koju's curling beast. "Poochie, Poochie, Poochie." A few horrifying cutting sounds suddenly came. The golden lion in the sky howled a few times and disappeared. The dense black shadowless blades had killed it in an instant. Chapter 15-16. Poochie. The ear-piercing sound continued to echo in the ears of Natsuki and Koyama. They stared blankly at the dismembered, curly beast in the sky. Their bodies remained motionless, as if they had been petrified. This was a curly beast of a true ancestor. Even if Koju was only a dabbler, the strength of these curly beasts was undeniably strong. Am I dreaming? Koju, who was deeply shocked, was stunned. He subconsciously pinched his right hand. Damn it, it hurts. The intense pain caused Koju's face to darken. But the pain in his body was far less than the mental blow. His eyes locked onto Dustless, unwilling to give up. He simply couldn't remember what sort of monster this fellow was. In this world, the true ancestors were recognized as the strongest. The three true ancestors had almost divided the entire world. Although Koju, the fourth true ancestor, was a rising star and might not be as strong as them, there was no reason why he couldn't kill a mere human. How should I deal with you now, Coach? Dustless approached Koju with a playful look. He had a playful smile on his face. Not to mention Xiao Guqing, even Xian Gaiyong and Nangon Natsuki felt pity for Xiao Guqing. Xiao Guqing was playing with his life. He wanted to take revenge and wash away his shame, but he couldn't treat his life as a joke. There's no need to be nervous. Relax. Dustless was very friendly. It was as if he had met an old friend. Koju couldn't help but let his guard down. Dustless took advantage of the moment when he was careless. He walked in front of Koju and said something that only the two of them could hear. Actually, I want to ask you something. Whose blood did you suck to awaken the fifth curly beast? Dustless narrowed his eyes. Koju wanted to say something, but stopped. His face turned red as he lowered his head. He cursed Dustless in his heart. This guy was clearly trying to embarrass him. Could it be Motoki Yase? Dustless said in a strange tone. I sense the same aura from him as the lion's gold. You must have sucked his blood to awaken the fifth scroll beast, right? This is a serious question. Please don't talk nonsense. Xiao Guiyong said with a pale face. It's not impossible. Compared to Xiao Guiyong, Natsuki found it much easier to accept. Koju had often been oppressed by Dustless, and he had awakened his blood-sucking beast. It was understandable that he wanted to defeat Dustless. What happened? What's the matter with all of you? In the corridor, there was another burst of hurried footsteps. As the figure quickly approached, the graceful silhouette gradually became clearer. This person was none other than Jizhua Shelley, who was in charge of monitoring the fourth true ancestor, Akatsuki Kogu. So it's Shelley. It's nothing. Koju Akatsuki and Motoki Yase are just gay. Dustless said casually, with a cunning look in his eyes. Gay? Everyone was shocked when they heard that word. It was not that they were uneducated, but they had never heard of that word before. What do you mean? Jishua Shelley was confused. It means that Koju Akatsuki is gay. Dustless exposed Koju Akatsuki's scars. Bastard. Don't talk nonsense. I'll sue you for slander. Koju Akatsuki said with a dark face. I'm a normal man. You're gay. Oh, everyone is here. As soon as Koju Akatsuki's voice faded, a figure that Koju Akatsuki didn't want to see appeared. He was wearing headphones, and the most obvious thing was that there were 2 teeth marks on his neck. It was Motoki Yase. This is bad. Koju Akatsuki was stunned. He subconsciously glanced at Dustless, who had already walked to Motoki Yase and was circling him. Everyone, look at the 2 teeth marks on this guy's neck. Dustless's words attracted everyone's attention. The 2 teeth marks were very obvious. Although they had already healed, there were still scars. Motoki, give me an explanation. Koyomi suppressed the anger in her heart and asked. She and Motoki Yase weren't really boyfriend and girlfriend, but everyone knew about their relationship. Now, there was news that Koju Akatsuki and Motoki Yase were gay. Koyomi was about to vomit blood. I accidentally touched it. Motoki Yase hurriedly denied. If Dustless found out that Koju Akatsuki had sucked his blood, he wouldn't be able to face anyone anymore. Is that so? Dustless smiled, but didn't say anything. He stared at Koju Akatsuki, and a beam of light appeared on his fingertip. Laser. The beam of light shot straight at Koju Akatsuki. You want to defeat me with this? You underestimate me. Koju Akatsuki looked disdainful. His body emitted a golden halo, and the place where he stood formed a golden shield that deflected the beam of light. It was the ability of the 5th scroll beast, Lion's Gold. Oh no! Motoki Yase's heart sank. As the blood medium of Lion's Gold, he was naturally affected. His body emitted a special aura that was the same as Lion's Gold. Goodbye. Koyomi snorted coldly and left with a face full of disgust. Jishua Shelley also did the same. Koju Akatsuki gave her a bad feeling, and now he was gay. Natsuki Nangong also shook her head and left. Please continue. Dustless also left decisively, leaving the stage to the 2 gays. This is what you get for offending me. Your girlfriend ran away. Serves you right. Wu Chun was secretly pleased. Yase Moki was the one who tipped them off, so the Lion King organization sent people to monitor him. Now that he was labeled as a gay, Xian Guiyong probably wouldn't care about him anymore. Chapter 15-17. Motoki Yase and Koju looked at each other with sadness written all over their faces. Damn it, it's all Dustless's fault. Koju complained. Because of Dustless's instigation, Akatsuki Koju's reputation was already in tatters. He had become a street rat that everyone wanted to beat up. Today, what was even worse was that he had to bear the label of being a homosexual. He was being treated as a homosexual. Humph, it's all your fault. Motoki Yase cursed in his heart. It was all because of Koju that he was inexplicably sucked of his blood. Now, even his good friend of many years, Xiao Guiyong, had left him. He was particularly unlucky and depressed, and for the first time, He felt resentful towards his good friend. Cough, cough, cough. Yace-kun, there's something I want to talk to you about, Koju said with embarrassment. Spit it out. Motoki Yace was unhappy. His girlfriend left him. He was very unhappy. I was injured by Dustless just now. Can you? Koju pointed at the burn mark on his abdomen. There was an obvious burn mark on his abdomen. He looked at Motoki with an imploring look. You want to suck my blood? Bastard, don't come near me. Yace Motoki warned loudly as he looked at Koju suspiciously. Don't tell me it's the same as that guy said. Are you really gay? Koju was speechless as he looked at Motoki Yace. It was fine that Wuchen doubted him, but now even his best friend suspected that he was gay. We've known each other for a few years. Don't you know what kind of person I am? Koju said angrily. That was all made up by Dustless. Don't talk nonsense. Suck my blood and heal my wounds. Koju didn't care whether Moki agreed or not. He pounced on Moki, who was caught off guard, and was pinned to the ground. Kacha! Koju bared his sharp fangs and bit Moki's neck. Dustless was quite ruthless. Koju's abdomen was badly burned. If it was an ordinary injury, he could just grit his teeth and endure it. But this time, the pain made him grimace. He couldn't bear it any longer. TSK. As expected, it was the right decision to return. Luckily, I borrowed a camera from Natsuki. In a certain corner, Dustless excitedly stared at Koju and Moki Yace, who were rolling on the ground. He quickly picked up his camera and took a few close-up shots of the two people fighting fiercely. Tomorrow, the photos of the two of you in love will be spread throughout the entire Rainbow Sea Academy. Dustless laughed dryly. He didn't want to disturb Koju and Yace Moki's good time. He left quietly and left the rest of the time for them to play to their heart's content. The next morning, in the spacious classroom, Xiao Guqing was lazily lying on his desk. He touched the wound on his stomach and nodded with satisfaction. Vampires have amazing recovery abilities. Even Dustless doesn't have my recovery abilities. If I work a little harder, I can definitely surpass him. Unlike Koju in the original work, Koju in this world desperately wanted to become stronger. Only then would he not be mocked and humiliated by Dustless. But if I want to awaken other curly beasts, I will need a new blood source. Koju had a splitting headache. This was the biggest and most troublesome problem. Koju. At this time, a slender girl suddenly appeared in front of him. Koju's eyes flashed. He was familiar with this person. It was Azure Wing. That Azure Wing. Koju's voice came to an abrupt halt. Azure Wing was holding a photo and walking over angrily. Her face was red, and her sadness was clear. There were even tears at the corner of her eyes. Azure Wing, who bullied you? I will help you teach him a lesson. Koju's sense of justice was bursting. His good friend was being bullied. Azure Wing was even angrier when she heard this. The one who bullied me is you, you bastard. Azure Wing scolded. She then mercilessly slapped Koju in the face. Slap, slap, slap. The crisp sound was particularly loud. A clear palm print appeared on Koju's face. Under everyone's gaze, Koju was slapped several times. What's going on? Is this woman crazy? Koju was stunned and looked constipated. I'm crazy? Azure Wing was even angrier. She threw the photo in her hand at Koju's face and said with hatred, No wonder Kiki has been following you. I didn't expect you two to have such a relationship. There's nothing going on between us. Koju felt his balls ache. He picked up the photo on the ground and glanced at it. He was so angry that he almost fainted. The photo was of him and Moki being intimate. It was the process of him sucking Moki's blood yesterday. TSK. This is really good. Dustless, who was secretly observing this, laughed. It was more comfortable than beating up Koju himself. Umph. Suddenly, there was a heavy groan behind him. Dustless was stunned. He subconsciously turned his head and saw Nangong Natsuki, who was hugging her chest, and Asteruti, who was dressed as a maid. Cough, cough, cough. What's the matter? Dustless scratched his head and said awkwardly, This is your salary for this month. Go buy some decent clothes. Don't embarrass me tonight. Natsuki handed Dustless a large stack of cash. What distinguished guest is visiting? Dustless was surprised. Someone invited me to a banquet tonight. I have to bring a partner. Natsuki handed Dustless an invitation. The name of the inviter was familiar. Dmitry Vatler. Chapter 15:18. Dustless stood there motionlessly. He neither agreed nor refused. He just remained silent. No one knew what he was thinking. If you don't have time, I'll go find Koju. Natsuki saw that Dustless did not reply and turned to leave. Wait! Dustless's body flashed and appeared in front of Natsuki. He looked at the unhappy Natsuki and said bluntly, "Don't you think that Dmitry Vatler has other motives?" Of course I know. Although that snake player looks like a battle maniac, he is actually very meticulous. He definitely has a scheme. That's why I want to go and take a look. But his banquet seems to be targeted at me. I need to find a partner of the opposite sex. At the end, Natsuki stomped her feet in annoyance like a child. That's why I'll let you be my partner this time. Of course, if you don't want to, I'll let Koju take advantage of you. Natsuki Nangong said indifferently. After all, she had nothing to lose. You. Hearing this, Dustless was speechless. He did not expect Natsuki to be so shameless. No problem, I agree. Dustless gritted his teeth and agreed. Although he did not like that Vatler, he would not lose anything by going. At night, the weather turned cold. The sea was filled with bone-chilling winds. Even so, there were still celebrities from all over the world. They were all wearing elegant gowns. The women were wearing skirts. Even if they were shivering from the cold, they endured it. Looking at the luxurious ship docked at the port, everyone was shocked. This luxurious cruise ship was unprecedentedly large. When it sailed on the sea, it was as shocking as a moving mountain. Damn nouveau riche, evil capitalist. His mouth twitched. Looking at the luxurious cruise ship, Dustless had the urge to stomp on it. Natsuki beside him was also dressed up. Her face was like carved jade. She had a noble temperament and an inexplicable majesty. She was very attractive. She changed into a beautiful white dress. Of course, it was still the same gothic lowly outfit. Natsuki nodded. This time, she didn't oppose Dustless. That snake charmer really likes to show off. If there's a chance, we must make his deep-sea tomb sink. The so-called Tomb of the Deep Sea was the name of this luxury cruise ship. Don't worry about that. If there's a chance, I'll definitely make it disappear. Dustless dryly laughed a few times and then gave Natsuki a reassuring look. Let's go. I want to see what the snake charmer is up to. Natsuki grabbed Dustless's arm and boarded the luxury cruise ship with Dustless. As expected of a tycoon, after boarding the ship, the entire appearance of the cruise ship was exposed to Dustless's eyes. It was extremely luxurious, and there were countless swimming pools and entertainment facilities. It was as if they were still on land. Is it Miss Nangong? This side is lighter. The maid took the initiative to walk in front of Dustless and Nangong Nayu. She pointed at a quiet corridor. The two nodded and walked over. I wonder if that brat Koju will come. Wu Chun was quite curious. In the original novel, Akatsuki Koju had come with Jimu Shelley as his female companion. But now, when Jimu Shelley saw Akatsuki Koju, she didn't seem to care at all. If it weren't for Huang Ban Sha and Yahua, Akatsuki Koju might have already been chopped into pieces by Jimu Shelley. Rich people really know how to enjoy life. Walking up the stairs, the first thing he saw was a spacious first-class cabin. Luxury is a must, especially now that the wind has stopped blowing. The cool sea breeze is especially comfortable. Plus, the view of Itagami Island from the cruise ship is breathtaking. Ayo, 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 ayo. At this time, a hysterical roar came from the void. Dustless and Nangong Natyue were startled. They turned their heads to look at the source of the roar. That Vatler is really a bat that deserves a beating. A purplish-black light shot toward them. Its target was Dustless and Nangong Natyue. You're right. Nangong Natyue nodded in agreement. She admitted to Dustless's words. What are you waiting for? Seeing Dustless standing there like a fool, Nangong Natyue jumped up and pinched Dustless's ear. You have to understand that I brought you here to humiliate him. This guy is really up to no good. Dustless didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't like Nangong Natyue's actions, but this annoying bat in front of him was even more annoying. Binding Path 81, sky-shattering. With a shout, a transparent barrier as thin as a cicada's wing appeared in front of Dustless and Nangong Natyue. Looks like I've been underestimated. You want to use such a weak barrier to block my attack? Nangong Natyue, you sure have low standards. How could you find such a... Vatler stopped abruptly midway through his sentence. Boom, boom, boom. The purplish-black ball of light hit Dustless's barrier with full force. Dustless thought that the barrier would be broken, but it turned out to be very sturdy. Not only did it block Vatler's attack, it didn't even budge. A firefly's light is just a flower in the night. It's impossible for it to reach the top. Dustless glanced at Vatler. He didn't waste any more time and continued to stare at the night view of Itagami Island. Snake player, pay attention to your words. My partner is someone that even a true ancestor fears. Nangong Natyue purposely closed the distance between her and Dustless. He could even feel her small breasts. However, the size was negligible. This guy is doing this on purpose. Dustless's sharp senses picked up on something else. Vatler was a battle maniac. If he knew that Dustless was as strong as a true ancestor, he would pursue him relentlessly. Chapter 1519. Natsuya, on the other hand, was harboring malicious intentions. She wanted to borrow Dustless's hand to teach this arrogant fellow a lesson. It would be best if he lost all his face. Is that so? That's something to look forward to. Sure enough, just as Natsuya expected, Vatler's eyes were shining as he stared at Dustless. He looked like a hunter who had found his prey. Huh. At this time, a voice filled with schadenfreude rang out. Dustless and Natsuya were startled. This voice was especially familiar to Natsuya. She could hear it every day. Following the source of the voice, a silver-haired youth appeared before them. Koju? Natsuya and Dustless both frowned. This was especially true for Dustless. Why was it that no matter where they went, they would always run into this jinx? This guy instantly killed my curly beast. He's much stronger than me, Koju said with admiration as he gave Dustless a thumbs up. Only the smile on his face didn't seem to be genuine praise for Dustless. A human could instantly kill a primordial ancestor's curly beast? How was that possible? Vatler's elegant and calm face revealed a trace of astonishment. He was becoming more and more curious about Dustless's background and personal strength. Although Koju wasn't very competent as a primordial ancestor, the fact that he could instantly kill a primordial ancestor's curly beast was too shocking. Koju's strength hasn't grown much, but his scheming has deepened. Is this a side effect of being bullied by Dustless? Natsuya frowned. As the fourth primordial ancestor, the more Koju praised Dustless, the deeper Vatler's obsession with Dustless. It's just that a certain primordial ancestor is too weak. He can't even deal with a human. The title of fourth primordial ancestor is simply given to a pig. Dustless retorted. What did you say? Koju's mouth twitched as he glared at Dustless. If it weren't for the difference in strength, he would have taught Dustless a lesson. Wasn't this the same as calling him a pig? However, after thinking about it, Koju felt ashamed. He was a true ancestor, but he was nothing compared to the other true ancestors who ruled the world. But then again, if I remember correctly, the banquet held on this ship can only be attended by male or female companions, right? Dustless said as he looked at Koju with a smile. This bastard. Koju's heart skipped a beat. He knew that Dustless was going to reopen his scars again. He was very depressed and wanted nothing more than to find a hole to crawl into. Then, Mr. Koju, where's your partner? Dustless looked around and didn't see Koju's partner. He then sneered, I almost forgot that you're gay. Just bring Yace Moki. Don't slander me. Koju's face darkened. I received a personal invitation from Mr. Vatler. Xiao Guqing said with a hint of pride. Everyone had to bring a partner of the opposite sex to participate, and he was an exception among the countless people. This idiot, Dustless and Natsuki looked at each other and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. Koju's reaction was a bit slow. It seemed like he didn't know what Vatler's personal invitation meant. He probably wants to devour Koju. I heard that Snake Player has already devoured 2 elder-level vampires. His strength is very close to that of a true ancestor. Natsuki muttered. She vaguely understood why Vatler would personally invite Koju. Koju might be here to test how much he has grown. Once he reaches the standard, Vatler will probably make a move on him. I really don't know why this idiot is so smug. Natsuki-chan, your student is too weak. He's as slow as a block of wood. Maybe it won't be long before the 4th true ancestor leaves and is replaced by the new 4th true ancestor, Vatler. Dustless looked at Natsuki with a mocking expression. Oomph. Hearing this, Nangong Nadingyu turned her head and snorted. She looked at Vatler with an unfriendly gaze. This guy was too unbridled. Snake Player, why did you call me here? If it's just a boring chat, then forgive me for being blunt, but I'm really angry right now. When she said the last few words, Natsuki Nangong was clearly angry. She had not dressed so carefully to see Vatler's pretentious display of superiority. Vatler sighed in a bored voice. I hate this kind of boring banquet as well. The henchman of the Black Death Emperor faction, Christopher Judson. You might have heard of him before, right? He's the new leader of the Black Death Emperor faction. He used to be a famous soldier in Europe, but he's now a terrorist. He's currently infiltrating Itagami Island with the intention of wreaking havoc. Hold on. Dustless waved his hand and interrupted Vatler. That means the terrorist is from Europe, from Battle King's territory, right? You should be fully responsible for this. That's right. Natsuki nodded in agreement. That's why. Dustless looked at Vatler and laughed dryly. I know the terrorist's goal is to cause destruction, but he's from Battle King's territory. You can just compensate him with a few trillion or give him a few million square kilometers of land. Puffed. Even with Vatler's temper, he was angered by Dustless's words. Money is one thing, but territory isn't something that can be compensated so casually. How big is Earth? A few million square kilometers. Chapter 1520. The veins on Vatler's forehead were clearly bulging, and his eyes flashed with a hint of devastation. Just Dustless's arrogant words alone were enough to kill him. Even though the 4th primogenitor lost to Dustless, Vatler wasn't afraid. Koju was just a trash primogenitor. Vatler was confident that he could defeat Koju. You dare to ask War Monarch's domain to give up its territory? You sure have guts. Vatler smiled. You really are a jinx. If I stay with you, I might be killed by a primogenitor. How many days have I known you? You already provoked the 4th primogenitor. Now you dare to provoke the 1st primogenitor? Dustless's strange condition not only shocked Vatler, but also Natsuki. She almost fell over. The 1st primogenitor, the Forgotten War Monarch, was not someone a trash primogenitor like Koju could compare to. He was a god-tier fighter who could destroy the world. Sorry, compensation is not possible. So, Vatler's lips curled into a sly grin. When you discover those terrorists, just inform me. I will personally head over to Itagami Island to wipe them out. I refuse. Nangong Natsu's words were filled with determination. Her firm tone left no room for negotiation. Send Vatler to eliminate the terrorists? What a joke. This kind of battle maniac could do all kind of crazy things. Who knows? He might even help the terrorists in a moment of joy. It sounded ridiculous. As a noble of War Monarch's domain, why would he help the terrorists? But that was the truth. For the joy of battle, he would abandon his position. Vatler was such a person. Are you sure? Vatler wasn't surprised. He shrugged. If that's the case, then I will have to trouble you to help me eliminate the remnants of Black Death Emperor faction. I will be eternally grateful. This bastard, Natsuki glared at Vatler. This bastard's method was too despicable. No matter what happened, Vatler would not be implicated. I went to the island to help you catch them, but you didn't want to. I don't care if Itagami Island gets sunk by terrorists. That was what Vatler was trying to say. Well, allow me to interrupt. I want to ask, are you sure you want us to help you eliminate the remnants of the Black Death Emperor faction? Are you sure you won't regret it? Dustless stood out and asked. His eyes were shining, revealing a different meaning. Of course. Valor nodded seriously. Although he didn't know what Dustless was planning, one thing was for sure. He also hoped that this group of remnants would be annihilated. This fellow is truly shameless. Does he think that I don't know that the Black Death Imperial faction is on his ship? Dustless sneered inwardly. However, on the surface, he remained calm. Everyone, be careful when you exterminate the Black Death Emperor faction. Those guys have the weapon of the ancient gods, Velicuvula, Vatler said solemnly, but his expression was sloppy. Since Your Excellency wants us to exterminate the Black Death Emperor faction, I will begin my work now. A ferocious smile flashed across his face. Looking at the unsightly luxury cruise ship under his feet, Wu Chen's feet suddenly condensed a large amount of light. The dazzling flash made people dare not look at it. Lightspeed kick. As the giant flashing foot fell, the luxurious cruise ship named Tomb of the Deep Sea fiercely trembled. An exaggerated scorched crater that was 20 to 30 meters long appeared in its wake. Asterisk Creek. Asterisk the Deep Sea Tomb could no longer withstand such a heavy attack. It started to sink slowly. Dustless, are you crazy? How dare you provoke Vatler on his ship? Natsuki asked with a dark expression. Even though she felt good, attacking another country's ship was a slap in the face. You better give me an explanation. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences. Vatler's face turned green. Demonic energy flowed out of his body. You asked me to do this. Wu Chun had an innocent look on his face as he said in a strange tone, You wanted us to help you destroy the Black Death Emperor faction, right? Those guys are on this ship. I'm attacking this ship to destroy their stronghold. That's why. I destroyed your ship for your own good, Mr. Vatler. You should be thanking me. Dustless said seriously. If you don't thank me properly, I will not let you leave Itagami Island so easily. After all, I help you solve a huge problem. Thank you? Vatler almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He glared at Wu Chun with fire in his eyes and veins popping out on his forehead. You destroyed my ship for no reason, and you want me to thank you? You can't bully me like this. Especially Dustless's last sentence. Vatler was furious. It was as if he was warning himself that if he did not thank him, he would not let him off the hook either. The Black Death Emperor faction is on my ship? Ridiculous. What a slander. Vatler swallowed his anger and refused to admit it. Natsuki, on the other hand, looked at Vatler in a different light. She was quite familiar with Vatler and knew his personality. Hiding the Black Death Emperor faction on the ship and having them sneak onto Itagami Island was definitely something he would do. Show me proof that I'm hiding the Black Death Emperor faction. Otherwise, my curly beast will not let you off the hook so easily, Vatler said coldly. As for Koju, he had already forgotten about him. His ship was destroyed by someone else. If he did not get an explanation, he would not be able to stay in War Monarch's domain anymore. On the other hand, Dustless remained calm. He treated Vatler's threat like a feather. Chapter 1521. Vatler was about to explode from anger. Every expert had a different side to them, and it was normal to be arrogant, but that didn't mean he could be so condescending. Destroying my ship for no reason. I will not tolerate such provocation. Vatler's body exploded with mana as if he was about to attack. Idiot, do you have any evidence? If you're making things up, then even I can't protect you. Natsuki raised her voice in a serious tone. You are amazing. At this point, Koju was full of admiration for Dustless. While he was the fourth true ancestor, he was just a figurehead. Vatler might care about him, but deep in his eyes was the same disdain. You want a witness? Are you blind? The witness is right in front of your eyes. Looking around, Dustless noticed that there were panicking servants everywhere. The invited guests were all panicking. Who would have thought that someone would dare to attack Vatler's private cruise ship? This guy was known as the monster closest to a true ancestor. However, The scene before them made them understand that there were still people who dared to kick Vatler's ass. Lord Vatler. Just as Dustless and Vatler were confronting each other, an unusually respectful voice suddenly sounded. The newcomer was about 15 or 16 years old. He was a beautiful young man with a petite and gentle appearance. He had gray hair, emerald eyes, pure white skin, and long eyelashes. He gave off a dreamy feeling, and people couldn't help but want to protect him. Is something the matter? Vatler was furious and looked at everyone with hostility. Yes, yes. The young man was stunned for a few seconds before nodding stiffly. He moved to Vatler's ear and said in a voice only the two of them could hear, "The Black Death Emperor faction has left." Very good. Vatler's eyes lit up, and he nodded with satisfaction. He then looked at Dustless with a victorious expression and sneered. So what if I hid the Black Death Emperor faction on my ship? They have all left. Do you have any evidence to accuse me? I found the witness. Dustless's sudden words attracted everyone's attention. His eyes lit up as he looked at the handsome young man who had just come to deliver the news. Could it be? The corner of Vatler's mouth twitched. He naturally saw Dustless's malicious gaze. This brat is a member of the Black Death Emperor faction. Dustless said with certainty. It's over. Natsuki and Koju's hearts skipped a beat. They both knew this brat. He was Vatler's subordinate, and also a noble from the Battle King domain. His name was Hila Lebedev Valdezrava. Natsuki had seen him before. Akatsuki Koju had introduced himself to Vatler before. Don't worry. Since you've served me for so many days, I'll definitely buy you a large coffin. Natsuki said with an expression of, I'll take care of your funeral. Vatler was enraged. Hearing Dustless slander his subordinate, he went berserk. You dare slander my subordinate? You got guts. Slander? You can ask him yourself. Wu Chun maintained his composure all along. Still not giving up? Vatler raised an eyebrow and coldly shouted, Kira, tell this guy who you work for and shut him up. Yes, Lord Vatler. The handsome young man nodded respectfully. His next words made Vatler fly into a rage. Everyone, to be honest, I'm a remnant of the Black Death Emperor faction. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone was petrified. How is that possible? I've seen him before. This brat is definitely not a remnant of the Black Death Emperor faction. Natsuki muttered to herself in disbelief. Didn't I say it before? Dustless stretched and said without a change in expression, if I say he's from the Black Death Emperor faction, then he's from the Black Death Emperor faction. Slap. Vatler's face darkened as he slapped Kira Lebedev Valdezrava away and angrily shouted, Did your head get caught in a door? Mr. Vatler, this proves that the Black Death Emperor faction is hiding on your ship, and this spy is a loyal subordinate of yours for many years. Dustless's smile had a hint of sarcasm in it. Damn it, I was tricked by this brat. Damn it, how'd he do it? He didn't even make a move. Vatler was furious, but he had nowhere to vent his anger. Vatler was especially sullen. He had never felt so depressed before. He was sure that Kira's background was clean. Dustless must have some secret that he didn't know. Crack! Crack! Vatler was like a barrel of gunpowder. At this moment, anyone who provoked him would definitely be killed by the shock waves of the explosion. This was definitely not a joke. He had never suffered such a huge loss in his life. His subordinate had actually helped the enemy to slap his own face. This was the first time he had suffered such a grievous encounter. Idiot, with my attainments in illusion, it's too easy to control a rookie like him unknowingly. Looking at Vatler's purple face, Dustless felt a burst of pleasure in his heart. Hiding terrorists, I will definitely go to War Monarch's domain for an explanation. Natsuki also took advantage of the situation as she stared at Vatler with an unfriendly gaze. She also felt extremely happy. Vatler's sullen face was too interesting. Now we should go back and capture the terrorists that escaped to Itagami Island. Dustless yawned lazily as he ignored Vatler, who was vomiting blood. So what if I destroyed your ship, called your subordinate a terrorist, and slapped your face? Just like before, he patted his butt and left without any worries. Chapter 1522. Vatler could only watch helplessly. This was Itagami Island. He couldn't stop anyone from going anywhere. Plus, this was not Suki Nangong's territory. What did you do to that little brat called Gila? Seeing that Dustless didn't intend to speak, Suki Nangong had to ask. It's just a trick to deceive people. It's just an ordinary illusion. Wuchen explained simply. Normal. Nangong Nayu did not dare to agree. To be able to control the other party without anyone noticing, other than Dustless, who had broadened her horizons, no one else had been able to do so. Your mission ends here today. As for those terrorists, there is no need to worry. Natsuki suddenly said. Actually, the Black Death Emperor's people have already infiltrated Itagami Island. Our special forces also discovered their tracks and captured a few of them a few days ago. No wonder you're so calm. Dustless understood. As for that, God's weapon, Nalacuvala, it's impossible for him to revive. It's impossible to decipher its movements. Natsuki said calmly. That's why the old man, named Christopher Judson, came to visit Itagami Island. Don't forget, we have a special person here who can do it. I remember she's called the Empress of Electronics. Wuchen reminded. Oh. Natsuki paused for a second and then remembered a super talent, Asakuya, Blue Feather. In other words, the Black Death Emperor's people came for Asakuya Blue Feather? Natsuki asked. That's my oversight. But Asakuya Blue Feather is still in Saikai Academy and Asteruti is with her. She shouldn't be caught so easily. Only the heavens know. Dustless revealed an expression of helplessness. But at this time, Nangong Nainu suddenly did something that Dustless had never expected. She jumped onto Dustless's back. What the hell is going on? He turned his head and stared at Nangong Nayu speechlessly. Unexpectedly, this arrogant little girl picked up her lace folding fan and hit Wuchen. Idiot, what are you doing? Don't you know how to fly? Hurry up and take me back to school. Natsuki saw that Dustless was not moving and even used her fist to hit Dustless's back a few times. Although her strength was negligible, it was inevitable that Dustless would feel depressed. Don't tell me he's treating me like a humanoid plane, Dustless complained his heart. This fellow's personality is really terrible. I need to teach her a lesson. Dustless looked at Nangong Nathua with a strange expression. He chose to rush to the Rainbow Sea Academy. At this moment, Kai Academy was completely different from the usual quiet school. Da-da-da. Boom, boom, boom. Da-da-da. A group of armed men and the Special Regions Police Force fought, and the entire Kai Academy was in a mess. Although the students were evacuated for the first time, it was inevitable that there would be casualties. There were many dazzling corpses. These bastards. A flash of light landed on the rooftop of the school building. Natsuki angrily looked down at the people fighting below. The entire Kai Academy was in a mess. The terrorists didn't care how many casualties they caused, or rather, they hoped that more people would die. This way, they could announce to the world that the Black Death Emperor faction was back. My mission is complete. Goodbye. Glancing uninterestedly at the terrorists fighting below, as well as the Special Regions garrison, Wuchen intended to retreat. He was really not interested in the fight between ordinary humans. It's still early. Your next mission is to rescue Azurewing. That girl can't be caught, otherwise we will be in big trouble. Natsuki said seriously. Moreover, she's a delicate beauty. Do you plan to let Koju steal your hero's role? Can't you talk less? Dustless's expression was particularly gloomy. Natsuki's words made it sound like he was the reincarnation of a pervert. Your words are unpleasant to hear, but, raising his eyebrows, Dustless said righteously, although I am not interested in shallow onion Blue Feather, good things can fall on anyone's head, but not Koju. Although I don't know why you hate Koju so much, when we talk about other things, you are surprisingly easy to use. Natsuki smiled with exultation. That's because the protagonist's aura is annoying. Dustless curled his lips. He was able to get to where he was today because of his own hard work. But why were those protagonists able to kill everything with just a small burst of power? This was too unfair. You could say that he was jealous, but Dustless never liked those with protagonist's aura. However, Since you dared to use me, I need to get back at you. He stared at Natsuki. His hawk-like gaze made Natsuki somewhat stunned. But would she, who was proud by nature, lower her head? Of course not. Don't forget that I'm your superior. Be careful that I don't deduct your salary for this month. You. Dustless did not give Natsuki a chance to speak. He appeared in front of her in an instant and hugged her petite body horizontally. Without hesitation, he lifted her skirt. Pa! A merciless slap landed on Natsuki's butt. A palm print appeared on her butt. You're so young, yet you don't learn good things. Will you deduct my salary in the future? Dustless teased. You bastard, I'll kill you. Natsuki's face flushed red. She struggled with all her might, but was unable to break free. She could only helplessly stare at Dustless. Pa! Dustless did not fall for this, and slapped her again. Do you still want to kill me? I must kill you. Slap. Wuchen gave him another slap and said happily, Say it again if you have the guts. Her lips twitched, and she swallowed back the words she was about to say. She wanted to cry, but no tears came out. She cursed Dustless in her heart for being so shameless. But in the current situation, she could only lower her head and admit defeat. Chapter 1523. Little girl, you still want to fight with me? I will teach you a lesson. Dustless laughed while looking at the bitter face of Natsuki Nangong. This little girl was not only arrogant, she only had the so-called true ancestor in her eyes. In Natsuki Nangong's world, the true ancestor was the strongest. Therefore, she often did not put Dustless in her eyes. It would be good to teach her a lesson and let her know that there was always someone stronger than her. What? You still want to take revenge? Natsuki Nangong's face was red as she stared at Dustless fiercely. Her sharp eyes seemed to be looking for a loophole. Humph, just you wait. I will take back this debt 100 times in the future. Natsuki Nangong crossed her arms. Thinking of Dustless's strength, she could only swallow her anger for the time being. If she were to go for wool and come home shorn, it would not be worth it if Dustless continued to humiliate her. What are you standing there for? Go and find Blue Feather Shallot. Natsuki Nangong pouted and ordered. Don't worry, those terrorists are begging Blue Feather Shallot for a job. They won't hurt her. Dustless said calmly. At the same time, a trace of doubt appeared in his heart. Come to think of it, I haven't seen Shelley and Hanaka yet. With their personalities, they should have already fought with those terrorists. That is indeed strange. Natsuki Nangong's face stiffened. After thinking for a while, she nodded. Under such circumstances, the righteous Shelley should have already erupted like a volcano. Forget it, it should be fine. Dustless, who had no news, thought about it and felt relieved. Those terrorists wanted to fight with the two of them. They were just asking to be humiliated. In a dark space, there was a deathly stillness. Miss Blue Feather, I hope you can be tactful and not force us to kill your friend. Although terrorists give the world the impression that they are cold and heartless, if you can complete the task we arranged and still don't want her to die, I advise you to be honest. Christopher Judd said coldly. The person he was pointing at was Koju's sister, Nagisa. Use your genius brain to revive Nalakuvula as soon as possible. That way, the Black Death Emperor faction will be able to leave Itagami Island. Otherwise, the longer you delay, the more people will die. Christopher Judd said casually, full of disregard for life. He picked up a pistol and fired mercilessly at one of the students. Bang! The student's brain instantly exploded. Vomit, vomit, vomit. Seeing such a bloody scene, Asakash Blue Feather began to vomit. Before coming to Itagami Island, I once investigated your daily life. Are you close friends with this little girl? Pointing at the unconscious Nagisa, Christopher Jadashio sneered. I'll give you an hour. If you can't do it within an hour, they'll all die. The Black Death Emperor faction didn't just kidnap Nagisa, they also kidnapped other students. GMO Shelley was one of them. However, there were too many of them. If she acted by force, she wouldn't be able to kill all of them at once. The innocent students would be the ones to suffer. Therefore, GMO Shelley chose to endure for now. I will do it as soon as possible. Clenching her fist, Asakash Bluefeather had no choice but to compromise. On the other side, Dustless wandered around like a headless fly. He didn't find any traces of the terrorists for a long time. He turned the entire Rainbow Sea Academy upside down, but he didn't find their stronghold. Just when Dustless was having a headache, an unexpected figure entered his sight. "It's you." He stopped and looked at the visitor with surprise. This person was Xian Gaiong, one of the 3 saints of the Lion King organization. Dustless had offended him before. "Right now, at this sort of time, you wouldn't be here to find trouble, right?" Dustless muttered. "Of course not." Xian Gaiong shook her head and said, "Asakash Bluefeather, GMO Shelley, and Nagisa were all kidnapped by the remnants of the Black Death Emperor faction. They escaped to the port on the west side of Itagami Island. They have a lot of friends waiting there. You have to be careful." "Oh, so you are here to deliver information." Dustless was enlightened. He retracted his hostility and asked in confusion, "Shouldn't the Lion King organization inform Koju about this? He is the 4th true ancestor, and his sister was kidnapped too. Although he is a true ancestor, the Lion King organization doesn't dare to compliment him in certain aspects. We have already blacklisted him." Xian Guyong's delicate face was filled with disdain. I didn't think that secretly taking pictures would be so useful. Next time, we should record it." Dustless laughed awkwardly. Last time, when Koju sucked Yace Moki's blood, he recorded it with his camera. That was why the 2 of them became the targets of everyone. "Your information is very valuable to me. I will remember this favor. Goodbye." Before he left, he stole a few glances at Xian Guyong's long and slender legs. They were as white as jade and flawless. Her legs were just as beautiful as Jijua Shelley's legs, and her gentle voice, especially, gave people a different kind of inspiration. The Lion King organization had given up on Xiao Guocheng because they had no other choice. They had hoped that Ji Mushilai would be his wife, and in the future, they would be able to control Xiao Guocheng through Ji Mushilai. No wonder Koju and GMO Shelley didn't have a good relationship. They couldn't let Koju attract Koju. Chapter 1524. Since Akatsuki Koju had made a loss, he had to find a more suitable stock. Naturally, the Lion King organization set its sights on Dustless. He was strong and had good foresight. Most importantly, although he was not a primogenitor, as a human, Dustless might be even more powerful than a primogenitor. As the saying goes, those who are not of our race will always be of a different heart. A primogenitor was a vampire, and a human would always be a human. Most importantly, Dustless was not gay. Although the chances are slim, it's worth a try. After all, time will breed fondness. Koyama consoled herself. Since Sayaka Kawasaka and Jijua Shelley were living under the same roof as Dustless, someone would definitely win the lottery. Asterisk boom boom boom. Asterisk due to the invasion of the Black Death Emperor faction, the entire Itagami Island was in chaos. The sound of gunfire could be heard everywhere. They really know how to pick a place. According to Koyama's description, Dustless found the base of the Black Death Emperor faction without much effort. Almost all of them were armed to the teeth with assault rifles. Dustless even saw helicopters and missiles. Asterisk tat 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 tat. Asterisk the moment Dustless appeared, he attracted the attention of countless assault rifles. 20 to 30 assault rifles were fired at him mercilessly. His body was riddled with holes in an instant. Bastard, what's wrong with this guy? Are you kidding me? How is he still alive? He must be using hacks. There must be a problem. Let's report this to the boss. However, even though Dustless's body was shattered, his footsteps were unstoppable. He looked like he was taking a leisurely stroll in the afternoon. You can't blame me if you want to die, right? Dustless muttered under his breath. His body glowed brightly as he disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already floating in the sky. He was holding a large amount of light in his hand. Yasukani no Magatama. Densely packed golden light bullets fell from the sky and piled up in the sky. The terrorists who had just shot with the intention of murdering Dustless were all shot with holes all over their bodies and bleeding nonstop. What kind of monster is this guy? Christopher Judson, who saw this scene through the monitor, almost spat out a mouthful of blood. His subordinates had all participated in the war and were all veterans who had experienced hundreds of battles. Now, they were all eradicated by Dustless with a single thought. He felt extremely pained. Go and take the hostages out and warn that guy. If he takes one step forward, we'll kill all the hostages. Christopher Judson said coldly. Understood, boss. The group of lackeys took their leave one after another. It's actually this guy? Pale Blue Feather's eyes widened. She looked at the young man on the screen in shock. The person who had barged in alone was Dustless. She had met him once before. On the other side, Dustless's boundless observation hockey spread out, taking in all the movements around him, and soon he heard a rush of footsteps. Hurry up and stop, or we'll kill these hostages. Pulling out 7 or 8 Rainbow Sea Academy students, the black-clothed terrorist warned. A group of idiots want to threaten me? Dustless curled his lips in disdain, and a huge flash of light swept over his body. He was about to kill all these people and destroy them together with the hostages when an unexpected figure attracted Dustless's attention, and the raging light of destruction stopped. Looking closely, a silver-haired girl was particularly eye-catching. Her naturally dull face stood out from the crowd, and she instantly attracted Dustless's attention. Her deep crystal eyes were as bright as gems. Is this guy Kanace Natsuan? Lowering his eyebrows, Dustless thought to himself. This slender and elegant girl looked a little weak and somewhat sacred and somewhat similar to Kanace Natsuan in his memory. Tsukuyami. His eyes revealed a scarlet eye sockets, and a ripple surged out. Immediately after, the terrorists who had threatened the hostages all fell to the ground, trembling in fear. Everyone run. Seeing that the terrorists had all inexplicably fainted, the kidnapped students were all extremely agitated. Without stopping to rest, they scattered and fled in all directions. Ouch! A painful cry was heard, and Dustless looked at the source. It was Kanace Natsuan who was squeezed by the fleeing students. You're not afraid at all. Walking to Kanace Natsuan, Dustless looked at her injured knee, which was obviously stained with blood, and asked, Is your name Kanace Natsuan? Does it hurt? Kanace Natsuan didn't speak, only nodded slightly, and it seemed like she couldn't move anymore. After a moment of silence, Dustless suggested, You can't escape like this. Why don't you follow me for the time being? Although it's dangerous, it's better than staying here, or you'll be caught by the terrorists again sooner or later. Okay, Kanace Natsuan said. Her voice was as soft as a mosquito's buzz, but Dustless heard it clearly. He immediately carried the weak Kanace Natsuan in a princess carry. The latter's face flashed with an unnatural blush, and she wanted to break free from Dustless. But thinking of the current situation, she could only helplessly hug Dustless's neck. Bastard, who's going to help me get rid of this eyesore? He's too despicable. What does he think of us, the experienced terrorists? We're not shooting a movie, nor are we acting in a romance drama. Christopher Judson was depressed. F***. Our battlefield is not for you to pick up girls, and our soldiers are not for you to be a hero saving the damsel in distress. Chapter 1525. Christopher Judson was shocked and angry. At the same time, he was a little scared. He had sacrificed dozens of lives, but he did not see the benefits in the end. Instead, his men were getting fewer and fewer. Then let's all die together. Christopher Judson had a crazed look on his face as he pointed his gun at Jill Shelley and the others. Wait, boss, look, the prisoner has successfully revived Nave Lavila. Just as Christopher Judson was about to send everyone to their deaths, his men suddenly cheered and laughed. Through the computer screen, they could clearly see strange-looking monsters wandering around. They were like spiders, crawling on the ground with their legs on the ground as they moved towards Dustless. Humph! At least you know what's good for you. If you delay for a few seconds, you will all die. Christopher Judson sneered as he looked at Nalacuvula with satisfaction. However, with a loud bang, The weapon of the gods that he had high hopes for, Nalacuvula, mercilessly slapped him a few times. Boom, boom, boom. Black smoke suddenly rose from Nalacuvula, followed by a loud explosion. They could even hear the words, "light speed kick." What the hell is going on? You better give me an explanation. Don't think that terrorists are uncultured bumpkins. Christopher Judson shouted angrily as he felt that his intelligence was being underestimated. If it was an ancient weapon, why was it so weak? It was the weapon of the gods. You really are an uncultured bumpkin. Azure Wing complained in her mind, but on the surface she said calmly, "It's not Nalacuvula's fault, but that guy is too strong." Damn it. Christopher Jadexiu was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. He thought that Azure Wing had cut corners, but he didn't expect that Dustless was so strong that he could easily defeat the divine weapon that he had high hopes for. Humph, looks like I have no choice but to use that trump card. That thing is something that even Vatler doesn't know about. It will definitely wipe out Itagami Island and destroy the first primogenitor's War King's domain. The whole world will be at war with it. Haha. Christopher Judson threw his head back and laughed, looking like a madman who worshipped war. Just wait and see. Christopher glared coldly at Dustless in the video. He immediately turned around and left angrily. It seemed that he was going to find Dustless for a final settlement. He glanced at Nalacuvula, which had been turned into scrap metal, in shock. It had miraculously recovered and returned to its original state. What should we do? Hannah's Cannon's voice was as soft as ever, but this time there was a trace of nervousness. After all, she and Dustless were still surrounded by terrorists. There's no need to worry. Speaking of which, your adoptive father is called Kinsei Kanase, right? Dustless completely ignored the recovered Nalacuvula and reminded him, "In this world, there is no one who is absolutely trustworthy, including your parents. That's why you have to be careful in everything you do." Dustless gave a friendly reminder as he sympathized with the little girl's tragic fate. "But you're trustworthy." Kanae's Cannon had a gentle smile on her face. She was as gentle as an angel, and people couldn't help but fall for her. "You're too naive." Seeing this, Dustless shook his head, but he didn't expect this scene to be captured by the others. "Who is that guy? He seems very strong." The blonde girl asked. "Him?" The wise old man in a lab coat pushed up his glasses. His eyes were slightly cold, and his body seemed to be made of ice. He was Kinsei Kanase, and also Kanase Cannon's adoptive father. I think his name is Dustless. He's a new subordinate recruited by Natsuki Minamiya. However, his strength is completely above Natsuki Minamiya's. Even the fourth primogenitor's curly beast was instantly killed by him. Kinsei Kanase said in a deep voice. At the same time, the sound of the earth shaking suddenly spread. The few of them looked towards the source of the sound and were stunned. Densely packed Nalacuvulas were rushing towards them. The sheer number of Nalacuvulas was beyond human comprehension. "Let's retreat for now. Otherwise, we might be infiltrated," Kinsei Kanase muttered. His brows were furrowed with deep worry and dread. There were too many of them. They would be unlucky if they were surrounded. TSK, TSK, TSK. Kinsei, that Kanase Cannon is your daughter." The blonde girl mocked. Her tone was filled with contempt for life. She was Beatrice Basler, the boss who hired Kinsei Kanase. She's also the material for our next plan. Kinsei Kanase shook his head. He said calmly, "That guy can protect Cannon from harm for now. There's no need for us to cause any more trouble. Also, what's the situation in the kingdom of Aldisha? Don't worry about it. Their princess, Laferia Liavane, is heading towards Itagami Island. Once she appears in the target's range, I will personally take care of her." Shinra Tensei. A strong repulsive force surged out, and the surrounding Nalacuvulas retreated. Based on the current situation, we will need to use some large-scale spells to defeat them. TSK, TSK. We might even sink this island. Dustless's lips curled into a sinister smile. It was as if he was the incarnation of evil. It was as if the previous him was a disguise, and this was the real him. Chapter 1526. Cannon also noticed Dustless's strange behavior, but she didn't think much of it. Instead, she felt that Dustless was more reliable than before. You still haven't dealt with it? At this time, a familiar voice entered his eyes. He looked up and saw Natsuki holding a parasol. No wonder you haven't dealt with it yet. You're too busy taking care of women. Natsuki cursed Dustless for being a playboy. His ability to attract women was even more attractive than a true ancestor. Ah! If you can't do it, I can do it for you. A frivolous voice suddenly sounded. Dustless couldn't help but raise his eyebrows slightly. Looking over, it was a handsome blonde man exuding a noble aura. Vatler. This guy is really like a ghost that won't leave. Dustless frowned, but he also understood Natsuki's intentions. Seriously, this guy probably feels embarrassed. He's like a little brat. He looked at Natsuki helplessly. This guy liked to be stubborn and cared about his reputation, especially in front of people like Vatler. He would never lower his head. These guys are troublesome. They can recover after being destroyed. It's normal for you to feel troubled, Vatler said. Troublesome? Dustless sneered, his tone full of disdain. You feel troubled because you're useless. Please don't treat others like you. What did you say? The corner of Vatler's mouth twitched. He finally understood why Koju hated this guy. This guy was simply asking for a beating. His face was asking for a beating, and his tone was even more so. Well said. Nangon Nayu smiled sweetly and gave him a thumbs up. Wu-chun, show me your strength. Open the eyes of someone who only knows how to play with snakes. Stop him from being so full of himself every day. That kind of invincible idiot is really annoying. Even so, Nangon Natsu's heart was filled with worry. Looking around, there were hundreds and thousands of Nalakuvalas, the weapons of the gods. They were all piled up. Ha! You came at the right time. Dustless and the other two were startled when they heard the voice of a vile man intoxicated with success. They looked in the direction of the voice at the same time. What came into view was a huge, strangely shaped machine. A large number of Nalakuvalas surrounded it, and not even a fly could get past it. What is that? Vatler asked. You can think of it as the main body that controls these Nalakuvalas. As long as we can defeat it, all our problems will be solved. These machines will also be destroyed, Dustless explained calmly. But with so many of them, it won't be easy to destroy the mother body. Nangon Natsuki frowned. She regretted what she said just now. If she couldn't solve this problem, she would definitely lose face for nothing. TSK. The one who spoke just now seems to be Christopher Joadius. Does that mean that he is in the Matrix? If that's the case, I'll have an excuse to make a move. How about this? I'll help you get rid of the minions around the mother body. Vatler's suggestion was rather pertinent. I'm sorry, I refuse. However, Wu-chun only glanced at him indifferently. His tone was firm, and there was no room for negotiation. This idiot, Nangon Natsuki, slapped her forehead and gave Dustless a hopeless look. He was such a good fighter. Why did he refuse? You're not willing? Vatler was startled. He didn't expect Dustless to be so decisive. Looking at his frown, he suddenly understood. You're worried that you're not the mother body's opponent? How about this? I'll leave the minions to you, and I'll take care of the mother body. You don't seem to understand what I mean. I'm saying that I can take care of this by myself. I don't need anyone else to interfere. Nangon Natsuki and Vatler were both startled. Their eyes were filled with excitement. Leave that student to me. It'll be inconvenient to carry her in battle. Nangon Natsuki pointed at Cannon, who was still in Dustless's arms. Hearing this, Wu-chun nodded and said, There's no need. It's a matter that can be solved in an instant. Bastard, don't ignore my existence. And that bastard, don't think that you can fight against an ancient artifact just because you look bad. I'll make you regret it soon. Christopher Judson's angry roar came from within Nalakovra's mother's body. He was furious at Dustless and the others. These arrogant bastards were treating him like food that could be distributed at will, especially this bastard called Dustless. He was hugging a woman and couldn't even free his hands. How dare he say he was going to teach him a lesson? Go. Under Christopher Judson's command, The Nalakuvalas swarmed over. There were definitely no less than 100 of them. I want to see what's so special about you. Vatler stared at Dustless. This bastard had looked down on him time and time again. The first time, he destroyed his ship. Just now, he even said that he was useless. He was looking forward to Dustless's performance. Just disappear. There's been enough drama today. Also, I didn't get a raise for working overtime. Dustless grumbled. His eyes expanded to the limit as he roared, God's might. In an instant, a giant black hole with a radius of a few hundred meters appeared in the sky. It emitted a violent gravitational force and swallowed all the minions. Chapter 1527. Nangong Natsuki and Vatler widened their eyes as they stared at the black hole that was getting bigger and bigger. The powerful gravitational force was about to tear them apart. What is this? Vatler's face changed. Even though the gravitational force of Kamui was not aimed at him, the boundless gravitational force was enough to make him tremble. It was as if he could be killed by the black hole at any moment. Who knows? Nangong Natsuki rolled her eyes. She had only known Dustless for a few days. She did not mean to recruit Dustless into the Special Region Garrison Force. Now it seemed like he was gold hidden in sand. However, gold was still gold. Even if it was submerged, it would still shine brightly when it was unearthed. Damn it, what the hell is that? Christopher Jadius, who was inside the mothership, was shocked. Under this super abnormal gravitational force, he flew up uncontrollably. Ka. The mechanical arm could only hold on to the ground. If it was swallowed by the black hole, it would be over. Still want to struggle? Nangong Natsuki frowned. This guy was overestimating himself. Although the power of these ancient weapons was shocking, they were not his own strength. They were just some tools. Buzz, buzz, buzz. After about 10 seconds, the black hole in the void also disappeared. Everything in the surroundings also calmed down, but the entire land was a mess. The ground was flattened. Now that I have taken care of all your minions, are you still not going to surrender? Dustless flashed and appeared on the head of the insect-shaped machine in the next second. Through the special barrier, he could clearly see Christopher Jadius, who was still in shock. Sneak attack? Bullsh asterisk T. Not only did Christopher Jadius not realize his mistake, he even shouted, "This machine of mine is different from the rest of the garbage. It's light speed kick." A thick flash of light appeared under his feet. It was much stronger than before. Not to mention how powerful the kick was, just the high temperature was enough to melt Nalakuvala. You bastard! Christopher Jadius's face was extremely ferocious as he glared at Dustless. His carefully prepared plan had been ruined by this inexplicable brat, and he even had the urge to swallow him alive. You don't look remorseful at all. His gaze was calm as he looked at Christopher Judson. Facing that cold gaze, Dustless's face did not change and was full of calmness. In the end, he was just a defeated opponent. Ow, 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 ow. He yelled like a madman, as if he was cheering for himself. Then, Christopher Judson swooped down with great pressure. You must be buried with me. Christopher Judson roared as he charged forward. Forget about it. You'll spend the rest of your life in prison. Suddenly, a purple light flashed across the blue sky. Immediately after, a mysterious magic array appeared in the void. Countless chains then shot out from the magic array. Ka. Christopher, who was caught off guard, was completely unaware of what was happening. He was tightly bound by the chains like a dumpling and could no longer move. Bastard, let go of me! Christopher Judson roared. He was filled with anger and wanted to take revenge on Dustless. You should stop. She saved you. If you continue to provoke that man, perhaps your life will end in the next second. Vatler looked at Christopher Judson pitifully and shook his head. This idiot really thinks he's invincible. Well done, Dustless. She didn't expect the matter to be so simple and resolute. She nodded with satisfaction and then looked at the ground that was destroyed by the divine might. She smiled and said, not bad, not bad. But you even flattened the entire harbor. With such a huge loss, I'm afraid it will cost at least tens of billions to maintain. This shouldn't have anything to do with me. This loss should be borne by you, Dustless said with a fake smile. His meager salary wouldn't be enough for a few hundred years, right? At this moment, Dustless suddenly thought of something. His eyes lit up as he looked at Vattler. He laughed and said, Duke Vattler, you look very good today. What do you want to say? Vattler frowned. Seeing Dustless's smiling face, he couldn't relax. Instead, he felt his hair stand on end. Hearing this, Wu Chun didn't beat around the bush and directly expressed his thoughts. Every injustice has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. After all, those terrorists came down from your ship. Shouldn't you compensate me with hundreds of billions to make up for my losses? Also, I helped your War King domain capture the terrorists of the Black Death Emperor faction. Shouldn't you reward me? You don't know the rules. PFFF. Vattler couldn't help but spit. Fortunately, Dustless dodged it with a god-level dodge. You want me to compensate you with hundreds of billions? What a joke. Even if the loss this time is at most tens of billions, you want me to compensate you with hundreds of billions? Vattler's face couldn't help but darken. It was the first time he saw such a barbaric and unreasonable person. You only lost tens of billions, but I have to compensate you with hundreds of billions. Why? What he couldn't accept was that Dustless hadn't even gotten back his losses from destroying his ship. Now, he had to compensate him with hundreds of billions. Absolutely not. Chapter 1528. There's both a witness and evidence. You still don't want to admit it? Dustless glanced at Vattler, and his tone changed. If you don't pay up, I can kick you off this island. Even if your first true ancestor comes, it won't be of any use. Kick me off the island? Hearing this, Vattler's mouth twitched. The flames that had been suppressed for a long time could no longer be concealed, erupting like a volcano. Boom, boom, boom. The powerful mana caused a small earthquake. It was as if the entire island was shaking. Do you think I'm a useless piece of trash like Christopher Judson? Kill me whenever I want? Do you think you can capture them as you please? Vattler's tone was cold and filled with killing intent. He had been provoked by Dustless time and time again, but he was still able to suppress his anger. He thought he had done a good job, but this guy was born to be punched. He didn't know when to back down. He would only be satisfied if he pissed him off completely. You destroyed my ship, falsely accused my subordinates, and even wanted me to compensate you. You even wanted me to give you my land. Vattler gritted his teeth as he listed Dustless's crimes. More and more killing intent gathered in his chest. Everyone had a limit to their patience. And then, Dustless shrugged lazily as he ignored the discomfort caused by the high mana. In the end, you still want to go back on your words? Go back on my words? That's nonsense. Vattler snorted and said coldly, I have nothing to do with the terrorists. Even if the remnants of the Black Death Emperor faction are hiding on my ship, it doesn't mean I'm hiding them. So you still want to go back on your words? Dustless said uninterestedly. A wicked light flashed in his eyes. I wanted to provoke you on purpose to test how strong you are. Vattler's face was filled with murderous intent, but he was laughing in his heart. Even if the battle causes this island to sink, it has nothing to do with me. He was the one who attacked first. I was just defending myself. However, even after waiting for a long time, Dustless had no intention of making a move. He just watched quietly. Then hand over your subordinates for me to investigate. There are more than 100 terrorists on Itagami Island. Without your subordinates' permission, they wouldn't have been able to sneak in. This time, it was not Suki who spoke. Her tone was as firm as a man's. Hearing this, Vattler's expression changed. Without thinking, he blurted out, That's impossible. Swish, swish. Dustless's body glowed brightly as he charged towards Vattler. He squinted his eyes and asked, So you refuse to cooperate? I'm just doing my job. Even if the entire island is destroyed, I won't have to pay any compensation. Of course I refuse to cooperate. You want me to hand my subordinates over to you for inspection? What a joke. It's better if you don't tell such boring jokes in the future. Vattler replied matter-of-factly. He was a noble of the battle monarch domain. If he handed his subordinates over to someone else for inspection, not only would it be a disgrace to the Battle Monarch domain, it would also be his downfall. If that's the case, I have nothing to say about arresting you. A ghostly voice appeared. Vatler froze and turned around. Before he knew it, Dustless had appeared behind him. How is this guy so fast? Could be the same type of spatial magic as Natsuki? Vatler turned around and stared at Dustless. His face turned green as he sneered. You want to arrest me? That will depend on your ability. Just don't be afraid of destroying this island. Swish! With that, Vatler launched an attack. A large ball of magic light shot towards Dustless and Natsuki. Snake Charmer, you asked for it. Natsuki naturally wouldn't just sit there and wait for her death. Just as the attack was about to hit her, she disappeared. Swish! A faint purple magic array appeared behind Vatler. Then, a large number of chains shot out and pounced on Vatler. In less than a second, Vatler was subdued. Ha! You think you can subdue me with this? Vatler had a look of disdain. He shook his body and the chains disappeared. You! Pointing at Natsuki, Vatler was about to teach her a lesson when a mocking voice came from behind him, filled with endless ridicule. Exposing your back to the enemy is not going to work even if you have 100 heads. The shining golden feet were all aimed at Vatler. This time, Dustless was even more ruthless as he aimed for Vatler's head. This guy was too arrogant. He was the one who shielded the terrorists from getting to Itagami Island. Not only did he not change his ways, he even wanted to destroy the island. Lightspeed kick. The attack landed on Vatler's head. Vatler spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying dozens of meters away. Vatler even left a long and narrow mark on the ground. Chains of discipline. Natsuki saw this rare opportunity and used her specialty again. Countless chains lashed out at Vatler like venomous snakes, destroying him mercilessly. You asked for it. How dare you be so arrogant in my territory? You deserve it. Natsuki's lips curved upwards. Her bell-like laughter was pleasant to the ear. Aren't you afraid that the first primogenitor will take revenge on Itagami Island? Dustless had a strange expression. He wasn't afraid of the first primogenitor. But where did Natsuki's confidence come from? Chapter 1529. Dustless didn't understand. Natsuki Nangong's strength. Or rather, Itagami Island's overall strength wasn't bad. However, it was still far from enough to go against a primogenitor. You think I'm afraid? Natsuki Nangong curled her lips in disdain. Then she smiled maliciously. Don't worry. Even if the first primogenitor comes, you'll still be there. I'll just push all the blame to you. When the sky falls, the bigger one will be the first to get hit. This bastard. Hearing this, although Wu Chun was depressed and conflicted, he didn't feel annoyed. Natsuki's words had another meaning. She was implying that Dustless was bullying Vatler, and she was also implying that Bright Court Island was willing to work with him. The meaning of this couldn't be clearer. Perhaps in the future, the Akatsuki Empire would be replaced by the Empire of Nothingness. You two bastard are looking down on me. Vatler was said to be the monster closest to a primogenitor. He wasn't that weak. It was impossible to kill him with one kick. Even though the kick wasn't light, Vatler knew Dustless's basic strength. Instead of backing down, his battle instincts were aroused. Ah! Vatler's mouth was wide open. His face was twisted like a demon's. A horrifying laugh came from his throat. His eyes were bulging as if they would fall out at any moment. Boom, boom, boom. More and more mana seeped out of Vatler's body. Affected by Vatler's mana, Itagami Island trembled slightly at first. But now that Vatler was angered by Dustless, he unleashed his full power. Itagami Island shook violently, as if it was experiencing an earthquake. The ground cracked open for no apparent reason, revealing shocking fissures. Idiot, why are you still standing there? Get rid of him. Natsuki Nangong kicked Dustless's butt. However, Dustless was still in his elemental state. Her kick missed. Don't be hasty. His gaze remained calm. The luck of this island seemed to be very good. It wouldn't collapse so quickly. Ayo, 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 ayo. A hysterical hiss resounded through the void. Dustless was slightly stunned. Following his line of sight, a large purple snake suddenly appeared. Its entire body emitted a purple light, and its blood-red eyes stared at Dustless. Its snake tongue hissed as it flicked in and out, as if it was looking for the most suitable opportunity. Yubala! Vatler roared. His curly beast roared and charged towards Dustless with its jaws wide open. It seems pretty good. Dustless nodded slightly when he saw this. Immediately, a thick flash of light shot out from the tip of his finger. Dowd Breaker 88, Flying Dragon Strikes Thief. Swish! Swish! The flash appeared quickly and disappeared quickly as well. The last time it appeared was when it blasted onto the snake's body. Boom, boom, boom. A loud explosion shook the clouds. The entire Itagami Island could feel the shockwave from the explosion. The shockwave swept across the sky like a tornado. All the buildings within 100 meters of the explosion collapsed. TSK, TSK. Mr. Vatler, the mighty snake has become a roasted snake this time. You are too kind. If you want to treat me to a meal, just say so. Vatler's curly beast, Yubala, was charred and emitting a strange smell. It could only struggle to survive and wail in pain. Honored guests, if you want to treat us to a meal, just say the word. Why use your own curly beast as a cooking material? How extravagant. Natsuki took the opportunity to retaliate. Vatler glared at Nangong Nayu and Dustless. Why were these two asking for a beating? Also, the way they speak and their unique sarcasm made Vatler think that they are either lovers or biological siblings. Boom, boom, boom. Vatler's attack failed, but he won't admit defeat so easily. As someone who is close to a true ancestor, he has a few tricks up his sleeve. As his mana surged, a thick sea snake appeared again. No wonder Natsuki Nangong called him Snake Charmer. All curly beasts are related to snakes. Wu Chun muttered to himself. Judging from its aura, this curly beast seemed to be stronger than before. Sakara, a sea serpent that was even larger than the curly beast from before, descended once again. Its entire body was purple, and it was flicking its forked tongue out instinctively. Crush them, Vatler roared. His curly beast, Sakara, opened its mouth full of fangs. A surge of high-pressure water was brewing. Die! An ominous glint flashed in his eyes. Vatler waved his hand, and a thick water cannon shot out. Boom, boom, boom. Streams of water that were like lasers gushed toward them, and the majestic scale threatened to devour the earth. You overestimate yourself. Seeing this, Dustless didn't move. He didn't even blink as he stared at the incoming wave. The space in front of him started to distort. Divine might. Following Dustless's voice falling, the space shattered with a bang, and a huge hole appeared. The attacking giant water pillar was sucked into a different space before attacking Dustless. This move again? Vatler's mouth twitched. His expression became worse and worse. He waved his hand and was about to control his curly beast to attack again when Dustless' voice sounded. Vatler, have you ever been bitten by your own curly beast? Dustless's eyes stared at the huge eyes of the curly beast. His 3 Tomo Sharingan spun, and a majestic psychic power rushed towards Vatler's curly beast, Sakara. Idiot, why will my curly beast bite me? Vatler said with disdain. Did this guy have enough brains? What he didn't know was that Vatler's curly beast, Sakara's eyes had turned into the same Sharingan as Dustless. Chapter 1530. The thick sea serpent's eyes were filled with greed. His master, Vatler, was a piece of fat meat that could fill his stomach. How did he do it? Natsuki was puzzled as she realized how little she knew about Dustless. Is it because of those eyes? Her beautiful eyes stared at Dustless's eyes as she guessed. Looking at the same eyes as Vatler's, her mind started to work. Exactly the same 3 Tomo Sharingan. This guy knows Jiu-Jitsu. Natsuki was full of anticipation as she waited for Dustless's performance. Tear him apart, Sakara. Vatler waved his right hand and ordered his beast to attack Dustless. But what surprised Vatler was that even after waiting for a long time, The beast didn't obey his order as if it wasn't related to him. What's going on? Vatler turned his head and looked at Sagara in disbelief. He quickly noticed that Sagara's eyes had turned into the same Sharingan as Dustless. What kind of eyes are those? Vatler couldn't figure it out. He subconsciously looked at Dustless. When he saw that Dustless had the same eyes, his heart skipped a beat. It just so happened that right at this moment, Dustless's infuriating voice sounded out. Sakara, tear Vatler to shreds. Dustless ordered sternly. Tear me apart? Hearing this, Vatler laughed and said mockingly, Brother, are you joking? How can my beast tear you apart? Oh. Before Vatler could finish his sentence, the black python swallowed him whole. Poochie. Blood splattered all over the ground. Sagara was clearly holding a piece of minced meat in his mouth. Then he choked and swallowed the minced meat into his lungs to digest. Ha ha ha, you run very fast. Dustless looked at Vatler with surprise and disbelief as he teased. Your Excellency's escape skills are truly top-notch. If it were me, I would have been swallowed. What did you do to my curly beast? Vatler asked with his eyes wide open. His curly beast had attacked him for no reason. Someone must have done it, and the only person Vatler could think of was Dustless. Natsuki Nangong did not have such an evil ability. It's not a big problem. I just used my illusion to control that beast. Dustless said half-heartedly. Illusion? Vatler was stunned. He thought for a long time, but still could not figure it out. He could only say gloomily, In short, you used a despicable trick to control my curly beast. Fight me head-on if you have the guts. Ayo, 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 ayo. Vatler's heroic spirit soared to the sky, but Dustless was too lazy to even look at him. He directly controlled the curly beast to bite Vatler. Boom, boom, boom. Vatler was miserable. He was being attacked by his own curly beast. He jumped around like a monkey, temporarily dodging Sagara's fatal attack. Poochie. In a moment of carelessness, Vatler's shoulder was bitten again. Combined with the previous bites, Vatler was in a miserable state. He was covered in blood, and his body was on the verge of collapse. Seems like it's going to end. It's really disappointing. Wu Chun sighed, softly with a bored expression on his face. Bastard. Vatler wanted to cry, but had no tears. He glared at Dustless with eyes full of hatred. Finally, he clenched his teeth and retracted all his magic. The curly beast chasing him also disappeared. You're giving up on using your curly beast? Your chances of winning are even slimmer. What threat do vampires have without their curly beast? Dustless asked lazily. Or are you planning to give up? In your dreams. Vatler groaned as a cruel smile appeared on his face. Boundless magic erupted again. Ayo, 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 ayo. Ooh. A deafening roar reverberated through the clear sky. Two gigantic creatures appeared. Their general appearance was almost identical. They were both super monsters in the shape of snakes. I didn't want to use that first, but it looks like I have no choice now. Banantoa Nantoa. Two ferocious-looking snakes appeared. They opened their bloody mouths and bared their fangs at Dustless. Their low voices seemed to be saying, just wait for your death. I didn't want to use this, but I have no choice now. You're unexpectedly difficult to deal with. If I don't use my best trick, I might be the one eliminated. Vatler laughed savagely. He clenched his hands, and the two curly beasts began to merge. Boom, boom, boom. A powerful aura swept through the enemies, and a powerful shockwave exploded out, forcing everyone back. Even Nangon Natue could not block it and was blown away. Ah! Curly beasts of this level are comparable to Primogenitor's curly beast, right? Dustless was astonished. Originally, there were two frightening arrows, but after Vatler's fusion, they instantly transformed into a dragon's form. Their imposing manner was not inferior to the lion's gold, the true ancestor's curly beast. But I don't have the energy to play anymore, so let's stop here. Glancing coldly at Vatler, Dustless released all the spiritual pressure in his body. Suddenly, the sky became incomparably hot and oppressive. Tao Breakers 96, 1 Blade Cremation. Just as he finished speaking, a flaming blade rose from the ground. The fusion curly beast, which was as powerful as Koju's lion's gold, was reduced to nothing the moment it came into contact with the blade of flame. Chapter 1531. The giant blade-shaped flame pulled at everything around it. Everything that came into contact with it disintegrated and disappeared like the sea breeze. Is this guy doing this on purpose to get revenge? Natsuki was furious. If Dustless was responsible for the damage after the disaster, he might have stayed behind to think about it. However, as soon as this wild horse was released, he immediately became unruly. The opponent is too strong. If I don't use my full strength, I will be killed. Dustless laughed. Humph, the word on purpose is written all over your face. Natsuki pouted and stomped her feet helplessly. She had made an agreement with Dustless. No matter how much damage was done after capturing Vatler, it had nothing to do with Dustless. Controlling one's strength is very difficult. Dustless shrugged and acted as if he had done his best. All he did was turn a few kilometers of land into a barren wasteland. Damn it, even the true ancestor's curly beast can't do such a large area of damage, right? Vatler was shocked and frightened. He was also shocked by Dustless's strength, especially when he heard that Dustless had done his best to suppress his strength. His heart broke into pieces. This was too much of a blow. I didn't misjudge him. Although I don't know what's going on with this guy. His future is much brighter than Koju's, and he's a human. Xian Gaiyong, who was watching the battle from afar, couldn't hide her shock. If she hadn't seen Dustless destroy everything with her own eyes, she would have thought that this was a natural disaster caused by a meteorite. This guy is so perverted. How am I going to get revenge? Some were happy while others were sad. Some were happy while others were disappointed. Xiao Nagisa was one of those who was complaining. At this moment, her consciousness was completely taken over by the fourth true ancestor, Agrora. I definitely can't swallow this humiliation. I have to wash away this humiliation. This guy doesn't seem like the kind of person to play to the gallery. He shouldn't be bragging when he said that he has the ability to revive me. How can I make him revive me? Agrora was deep in thought. After a long while, he seemed to have made some kind of decision. His firm expression was replaced by a firm one. He touched his buttocks that had been attacked by Dustless a few days ago. Strangely, it started to hurt again. This made Agrora feel embarrassed and angry at the same time. The fourth true ancestor had been spanked. She wanted to hang herself, but Dustless was so strong that she couldn't even muster the courage to resist. He was clearly a mere human, but his combat power was no weaker than a true ancestor's. This was simply cheating. Now you'll be obedient, Mr. Vatler. Staring at Vatler with a teasing look, Dustless had a smug smile on his face. Vampires had an unlimited lifespan, and their recovery speed was also top-notch. But after being heavily injured by the aftermath of the cremation, even though he managed to dodge the fatal blow, he was still heavily injured. It was an extremely fatal injury. He didn't even have the strength to walk. If you want to kill me, then do it, Vatler said coldly. You want me to kill you? Dustless blinked and shook his head decisively. That's what an idiot would do. If I catch you and put you on the newspaper, you'll be famous. And if I kill you, who's going to pay for it? Famous? Vatler almost vomited blood. If his sorry state was published on the newspaper, he would be famous. But he would definitely be condemned by the public and be cursed for eternity. At the same time, the Special Regions Police arrived. They tied Vatler up and left. Natsuki also left. Only Kanace Cannon and Dustless were left at the scene. Sit down. Dustless pointed at a suitable spot on the floor. He frowned and gently touched her knee that was covered in blood. It hurts. Kanace Cannon's expression changed. The pain made her sweat. Her face was pale, and of course there were 2 faint red spots. She was quite cute. No one would be able to accept someone touching their thigh. Dustless, you really are a pervert. You won't even let an injured girl go. Living under the same roof as you, there's a risk of pregnancy. A furious voice came from behind. Dustless didn't even turn his head. He didn't need to think to know who it was. It was Hanasaka Sayaka. Senpai, you disappoint me. You're as perverted as that Akatsuki Koju. Jijua and Shelley followed. They were helping the kidnapped students. When they came back, they were already done. They happened to see Dustless molesting Kanae's cannon. After all, they were classmates and had a good relationship. How dare you molest her when I'm here? Do you believe that I won't? Hinasaka Sayaka swooped down with her weapon raised. When she was about to kill Dustless, she heard Kanae's cannon's grateful voice. Thank you, it doesn't hurt anymore. Jijua and Hanasaka Sayaka were stunned. They stared at Dustless in astonishment. Dustless's hand was slowly recovering. You're welcome. I know the most basic medical ninjutsu. Dustless smiled. It was a piece of cake for him. At the same time, something big happened in another direction. Who are you? The girl with the curse-type spear asked in an unfriendly manner. There were corpses everywhere, and they were all wearing the same clothes. They seemed to be his bodyguards. Oomph, your arrogant tone is really annoying. You're about to become a captive. You're no longer a princess. La Freya Liowane. However, the princess's situation wasn't good. She was surrounded by people, and one of them was Kanae's Cannon's adoptive father, Kanae's Kensei. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.